Chapter 26. Steve sank into the ground. He was constantly falling in the darkness. It seems like a long way to go. Eventually, he landed on the ground uninjured. There was no collision as expected. It was as if the damage caused by gravity was forcibly erased. Oh my god, did he really jump? Is it necessary? His shield can't even stop the corrosion. Isn't that just asking for death? The man with wings is dead, right? Is there any need to save him? You don't know him. He wouldn't be Steve if he just ran away like that. What is there to understand about this behavior? S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury attempts to communicate with Steve. But Steve had already entered the space and the signal was cut off. But Nick understood. No matter what, Steve wasn't going to run away alone. Nick squatted on the ground weakly, covering his face with his hands. A deep feeling of guilt came over me. His recklessness killed an elite team. Moreover, Falcon is most likely dead. Steve's life is also hanging by a thread. This is all because of his arrogance and stupidity. He couldn't help but look at his hands. Asgard. Loki rubbed his chin. Interesting. Monkey is not afraid of death for his comrades. Should I say, is this brave or stupid? But if Thor encountered this situation, he would do the same. It seems that this is stupid. General Ross sneered and shook his head. Foolish warrior, he thought to himself. Trying to fight against an anomalous containment object with your flesh and blood. At this moment, his army was advancing towards Central Park at full speed. His goal is not to shelter the scary old man. Just to collect fragments of his skin or secretions or something like that. After that, he can create an army of terrifying old men. Thinking of this, his eyes were filled with fanaticism. Hospital. Tony stared at the screen intently. This old guy is really unexpected. Although your courage is commendable, this is courting death. I bet he'll turn into a puddle of meat paste in the scary old man's wonderful house. Steve stood up. He looked around. This place seems like a nightmare made of black fog. The strange light seemed like the glowing green light in the deep sea, coming from afar. So that he could barely see the surrounding scenery. Everything. Dilapidated houses, rotten ground, and strange murals. Low ceilings. Everything seemed so dirty and shabby. That light gave Steve a feeling. The scary old man is over there. So he put up his shield and walked over there. The further he walked, the stronger Steve felt. I have been here before. This made him very uneasy. So he quickened his pace. Soon, he entered a long and narrow corridor. The floor is bumpy and the ceiling is in disrepair. He continued walking for a long distance. Suddenly, Steve saw something. It was a worn black and white photo. The frame was broken and the photo was half corroded. But Steve recognized it clearly. The person in the photo is Peggy Carter. Steve's lover. The one he owed a dance to. Steve's hands began to shake. Staring at the photo in disbelief. How is this possible, that monster couldn't have seen Carter? He picked up the photo. I touched it and confirmed that this was not an illusion. But he didn't have time to think about it. He must rescue Falcon and all the hostages. He continued walking forward. After a while, faint wailing was heard. Steve quickened his pace. These wailing sounds may come from the people who were captured here by the terrifying old man. Suddenly, the corridor ahead began to twist. A woman, head bowed, walked toward Steve. Steve immediately stepped forward. Hey, how are you? The woman looked up. Steve's eyes widened immediately. That person was Peggy Carter. How is this possible, Peggy? Steve's voice trembled. Steve. Peggy's voice was emotionless and her eyes were empty. She held out her hand. You still owe me, a dance. Suddenly. On the ground, a man with long hair climbed up. Steve shook his head in disbelief. Bucky. Bucky held out his hand as well. Steve, you had such a cruel heart, throwing me off a cliff and leaving me to die. Steve's eyes turned red. He looked at Paige and Bucky. He clenched his teeth and showed a determined expression. I'm sorry, Peggy. Bucky. Then he rushed over. Used shield to knock them down one by one. Peggy and Bucky screamed. Their skin wrinkled and melted rapidly. In the end, they turned into two pools of rotten flesh and blood on the ground. The reason Steve was sure was that they were not alive. Because he smelled a rotten odor. He had smelled this smell countless times 70 years ago. Anger appeared on Steve's face. Now, nothing can stop him. He walked forward with firm steps. Soon, he passed through the corridor. All I saw were countless dilapidated houses standing on the ground or floating in the air. There was sticky liquid all over the ground. Steve ran forward quickly. A piece of oily debris caused his feet to slip and he almost fell to his knees. But Steve didn't stop. His instinct told him. The scary old man is just ahead. After walking for a while, Steve heard Falcon crying. He suddenly perked up. Falcon is still alive. He quickened his pace. Soon, we arrived at a dim room filled with moss. The scary old man was standing in the middle of the room. Under his feet was a pool of slime that was higher than his knees. The scary old man slowly turned his body towards Steve, his body constantly shaking. The strange crying sound came from the thing in his hand. Steve looked closely and saw that it was Falcon's torso and head. I don't know where my limbs are. Something like barbed wire wrapped around him and drilled in and out of his body. His head was already twisted and the ball of thread was tearing his flesh all the time. Falcon's expression was full of pain, and a twisted ball of thread could be seen in his open mouth. Steve clenched his shield, a hole. He rushed forward regardless of everything. To his surprise, the scary old man didn't do anything, just looked at him. Just when Steve was about to attack the scary old man, the scary old man suddenly threw the remains of Falcon at Steve. Steve caught it immediately. Then the terrifying old man stretched out his hand. It seemed like a terrifying smile was revealed. Then, he walked towards Steve at a slow pace. Steve glanced at Falcon. Although he didn't know why the scary old man threw Falcon over. But, Steve must first ensure his survival. So, instead of attacking the terrifying old man, he ran towards the direction of the entrance. The scary old man chased after them leisurely. Suddenly, Steve stumbled. The ground seemed to have turned into soft gel and he sank into it. The next moment, Steve fell from the portal. Fell to the ground in the real world. The scary old man also crawled out of the portal. Keep chasing Steve. Steve ran forward as fast as he could. He must send Falcon out. But I don't know why. The scary old man seemed to be moving slowly, but was getting closer and closer to him. After a while, it was already within reach. The scary old man stretched out his slime-covered hand. Just grab Steve. Steve immediately blocked with shield. But it was of no use. Steve's shield and arms melted together in the slime like cream. Steve was dizzy from the intense burning pain. He couldn't help but kneel down. The scary old man raised his hand again, grabbing towards Steve's head. At this critical moment, accompanied by the roar of the engine, a large vehicle with the Foundation logo on it drove over. Chapter 27. Hey? Why did Captain America come out? Look in the distance. That must be the Foundation's car. Can they really take in the scary old man this time? The cell can't hold him. Yes, it was said on the screen before that the scary old man escaped. I think the result will be the same this time. Asgard. Looking at the scary old man getting closer and closer to Steve in the light curtain, Loki shook his head. Courage is ultimately meaningless. Humans have their limits after all. It seems that monkeys are still monkeys. Hospital. Stark saw the Foundation's logo. He couldn't help but become very interested. Previously, this was the method used by the Foundation to contain Wanyu Angel. This made Stark very unforgettable. This time, what methods will they use to contain this horrible thing? At the moment above the light curtain, the scary old man's big hand was very close to Steve's head. Nick Fury's eyes were also filled with despair. But, the Foundation's vehicle arrived in time. At this critical moment, with a buzzing sound, the headlights in front of all the vehicles shot bright lights towards the terrifying old man. Suddenly, the terrifying old man stopped moving. He began to cover his face with his hands. It seems that he is very disgusted with these lights. Steve gasped and immediately took Falcon's remains away from the scary old man. Next, several agents carried huge amounts of instruments. In front of the instrument are huge amounts of light bulbs. They aimed it at the scary old man. Then, the instrument emitted an extremely dazzling light. In an instant, night turned into day. The scary old man constantly backed away and screamed horribly. The agents drove him like this, until he was driven into a huge amounts of lead box. Then, the agents slammed the door. Steve said to the agents, "Hey, be careful, this thing can't hold him in." The agent captain said to him, "Don't worry, this box is made of lead. The scary old man is very afraid of this thing, and he can't get out for the time being." In this way, the terrifying old man was successfully taken in. The agent captain glanced at Falcon. He took another look at a piece of railroad track on the ground that was covered with black slime. "What a black track," he said meaningfully. "Wow, another easy containment. The Foundation is too powerful, isn't it? They can take in such a terrifying monster. Is it really safe? Didn't the previous information say that the containment of the terrifying old man had failed? What if he escapes again? What if he shows up in my house? I don't want to be corrupted. I'm so scared. Just because I failed before doesn't mean I will fail this time. Anyway, I have faith in the Foundation. If it weren't for them, the shy people before would have ruined New York long ago. Yes, we can only trust the Foundation." An inventory of the top 10 objects in storage. This is only the 4th one, right? How terrifying will the ones that follow be? I dare not even imagine. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick let out a breath. Fortunately, Steve is okay. He is now full of awe for the Foundation. And, there was no longer any thought about the containment. These things are not something S.H.I.E.L.D. can touch. Camartage. The Ancient One reminisced about the scene in the other dimension. The things there seemed to change according to the scary old man's thoughts. From this perspective, it is very similar to Dormammu's dark space. If there are more abnormal containment objects invading this world, will there be an anomaly as powerful as Dormammu? Even more powerful than Dormammu? In that case, can the Foundation still contain it easily? Caecilius, who was hiding in the training room, had a fiery look in his eyes. He also saw the shadow of Dormammu in the other dimension of the scary old man. It seems that, for him, the scary old man can be exploited. Put the scary old man into the mirror space, and then lure the Ancient One in. Thinking of this, Caecilius gave a sinister smile. Asgard. Yes, yes. This Foundation again. Loki smiled. He stepped out of the invisible space. It seems that I really need to go to the world of Midgard to have some fun. I want to bring back an anomaly as my pet. Foundation, hehe, I want to see if you have the ability to stop me. Loki smiled and walked in the direction of Bifrost. But, what he didn't notice was Thor was quietly following behind him. A serious face. The light curtain is temporarily closed. Steve looked at the remains of Falcon. He wasn't even sure if Falcon was still alive. The only thing that was certain was that he looked miserable. The lines running through his body were still tearing at his flesh. The Foundation has taken in the terrifying old man. The agent captain saluted Steve. Please accept my condolences, Captain. Then, the agents got in the car. Left this place. Steve hugged Falcon and sighed. He sat down weakly. It seems that he still failed to save Falcon. But, looking at Falcon who seemed to still be breathing, he didn't want to give up. Is there really no hope? Captain, why are you so dejected? Suddenly, a clear voice sounded from behind. Steve turned around suddenly. He saw a handsome young man walking towards him. Steve immediately became alert. Who are you? The boy looked harmless. But he appeared alone in such a dangerous place and was not hurt at all. It's hard not to be suspicious. Don't be nervous, Captain. Let me introduce myself. My name is Qin Yu. Qin Yu smiled brightly. What I want to say is that your friend is not dead. He just needs a little help. Qin Yu took out a pill from his pocket. At the moment, the sound of an engine was heard. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plane arrived. Just in time. Qin Yu looked at them. I was just thinking about meeting the great Nick Fury. Who are you anyway? What do you mean when you say he is not dead? Qin Yu smiled slightly. It doesn't matter who I am. You don't think you have escaped from the terrifying old man's space, Captain? He has already had enough killing, so he let you go. He went on to say, after satisfying his desires, the scary old man will make the living prey into toys. Just like your friend. So, he is still alive, but in great pain. Can you save him? Steve didn't believe Qin Yu's words, but he really didn't want Falcon to die. S.H.I.E.L.D.'s plane landed. Medical staff placed Falcon on a stretcher and wheeled him back into the plane. Modern medicine can't save him, Captain. I need to see your director, and then, I will save your comrade. Why should I trust you? What is your purpose? My purpose is not important. I can still tell you a secret, Steve. Bucky is still alive. What? Steve was stunned. Scenes from the past came back to his mind one after another. That's impossible. I saw Bucky fall off the cliff with my own eyes. How could he? Qin Yu stretched out his index finger and waved it in front of Steve's eyes. No, Steve. Is what you see necessarily the truth? Think about it for a moment. Qin Yu continued, are you really the first test subject of super serum? Did the military really choose you because of your character? Steve froze. Looking at Steve's expression, Qin Yu secretly laughed in his heart. The plan went smoothly. Please tell Nick Fury. Qin Yu put his hands in his trouser pockets. I can tell him a lot of secrets he wants to know. About the Foundation, and the traitor in S.H.I.E.L.D. whom he hates so much. No need to tell him. Nick Fury walked over with heavy steps. Boy, can you really save Falcon? Definitely, Director. But I have a condition. What conditions? The Anomalous Containment Foundation is trying to capture me. So, I need the protection of S.H.I.E.L.D. Qin Yu smiled meaningfully. Chapter 28. Nick Fury was silent for a few seconds. Seems like they are brainstorming. As long as Falcon can be saved, everything will be fine. Come with me. Nick Fury has been monitoring Qin Yu since just now. He realized that no matter who Qin Yu was, his identity must be extraordinary. As for whether he is dangerous or not, what kind of people has S.H.I.E.L.D. not encountered? As long as it's not abnormal, there's nothing to be afraid of. In this way, Qin Yu came to the S.H.I.E.L.D. spaceship. The first person he saw was Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff saw him, too. I was stunned for a moment. She had a feeling. It seems that I have seen Qin Yu somewhere. Qin Yu smiled slightly. Ms. Natasha Romanoff, I guess your experience with the Plague Doctor must be very unforgettable for you. Suddenly, Natasha Romanoff recalled things she didn't want to remember. My stomach started to churn. All right. Nick Fury said impatiently, you said you could bring Falcon back to life. Now, let's see how it works. You are really anxious, Chief? Qin Yu took out a pill from his pocket. What is this? Nick asked. Anomaly Containment 500, Panacea. Anomalous Containment Object. Nick was stunned. Falcon and Qin Yu are in a secure secret room. In this way, if there are any abnormal changes in Falcon, it will not get out of control. Qin Yu stuffed the pill into Falcon's mouth. After he swallowed it, he immediately began to scream in pain. Then, the vines wrapped around him began to shrink and disappear rapidly. Then, the wounds on his body began to heal. Even the broken limbs began to grow back. Nick Fury's eyes outside the window grew wider and wider. Soon, Falcon was back to normal. He jumped off the bed, gasping, and looked at his hands in disbelief. I am still alive? Was this all a dream? Nick Fury and others outside the window were stunned. A tiny pill can bring him back to life? Even restore his severed limbs in a matter of seconds. Nick shook his head in disbelief, feeling nothing but shock. Is this the power of the anomaly? It can actually ignore the laws of physics. Anyone who sees the performance of the abnormal containment objects on the light screen will be shocked. But that feeling cannot compare to the shock brought by seeing it with your own eyes in reality. Natasha Romanoff couldn't help but cover her mouth. Could it be that magic is real, she thought to herself. Steve was also stunned. One can imagine the shock this thing brought to this old man from the last century. Qin Yu walked out of the room. As you can see, Chief. Nick Fury's Adam's apple moved. This pill, do you still have it? Definitely no more, Chief. This is the only piece I stole from the Foundation at the risk of my life. Stolen? What do you mean? Natasha Romanoff asked. I told you, the Foundation is after me. Qin Yu fabricated an identity. He is a scientist at the Foundation. He was sentenced to execution for causing the failure of an anomalous containment object. But he escaped and brought the pill with him. Nick believed at least half of what he said. After all, he had just witnessed how powerful the panacea was. The person who can bring it must be an extraordinary person. That's all. Qin Yu was integrated into S.H.I.E.L.D. It's conceivable that Nick Fury would know. Qin Yu's real identity is the boss of the Anomalous Containment Foundation. What kind of expression would it be? Not long after, Nick Fury found his opportunity. Qin Yu was called into a room alone. Didn't you say you knew who the traitor to S.H.I.E.L.D. was? Tell me. Qin Yu crossed his legs and smiled, Director, I can only tell you one clue, you have to check it yourself. Nick frowned. Why? Because the truth is too outrageous. If I tell you directly, you won't believe it. Qin Yu definitely would not tell Nick that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been completely infiltrated by Hydra. Just like the distillery, everyone is a traitor except Jin himself. You should check your boss, Pierce, carefully. His secrets will definitely surprise you. Asgard. Next to Bifrost. Heimdall stood there, holding a great sword. Like a solemn statue. Suddenly, Odin appeared before him. Heimdall immediately opened his eyes and knelt on one knee respectfully. Great Father of the Nine Realms, God King Odin, what do you want? Heimdall, come to me now, this instant. Take nothing with you, not even your sword. Heimdall was stunned. Great King, I have sworn to protect Bifrost for the rest of my life and never leave. Odin narrowed his eyes. Why, are you going to disobey my order? Come here immediately and don't say anything. Remember, don't bring your sword. Heimdall immediately lowered his head, yes, sir. Then he left behind his sword, the key to unlocking Bifrost. Ran off to find Odin. After Heimdall walked away, Loki came out from the darkness, secretly delighted. Just now, it was he who created the illusion of Odin. I didn't expect that it would be so easy to trick Heimdall. He walked over immediately. He grabbed Heimdall's sword and was about to stab him. Suddenly, a strong hand grasped Loki's wrist. It made him unable to move at all. Loki broke out in a cold sweat. Turn around and take a look. Thor was looking at him sternly. Brother? What are you doing here? Loki said calmly. Thor slaps the sword out of Loki's hand. Loki felt a pain in his hand. Loki, you disappoint me so much. Don't you know that my father has expressly forbidden anyone from using Bifrost privately? You dare to deceive Heimdall, adding crime to crime. Come back with me immediately, and apologize to my father when he wakes up. After saying that, Thor grabbed Loki's hand. Loki immediately shook it off. Thor. Don't act like a good and obedient child. Do you think I don't know that you yearn for the outside world? Loki said excitedly. Thor was stunned. Seeing that his words had an effect, Loki continued, when you were little, you told me that the place you wanted to go most was Midgard. Have you forgotten? You also said that you wanted to have your own mount like your father, King O. Have you forgotten? Now, all of these can come true. Thor's Adam's apple moved. But he still shook his head, father said. Let me show you something. Loki uses magic. He showed Thor all the content played on the light screen. Looking at Thor's shocked expression, Loki knew there was hope. He was secretly delighted. It's not bad to have this muscular but simple-minded brother as your bodyguard. Thor took a deep breath. Are we really going to do this, Loki? Loki, what are you waiting for? Once all the objects in containment are seized by the Foundation, your mount will be gone. Don't you want to ride a cool monster and make Sif and the others look envious? Thor nodded resolutely, okay, Loki, that's all. Thor swung the great sword himself. Bifrost shines brightly. Sent them to the world of Midgard. At the same time, subtitles appear on the screen. Anomaly Containment Inventory, 5th place. Chapter 29. Starting again? But I did have some free time this time. Yes, it was basically seamless before. This time I can finally take a breath. I'm getting scared again. I'm so worried that the containment will appear downstairs in my house. I wish I could see the containment in person. The scary old man is awesome, Shas Hasha. The one upstairs, you are scarier than the anomalous containment. XP is free, but I still recommend you see a doctor. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick, Natasha Romanoff and others all looked at Qin Yu at the same time. Qin Yu spread his hands, the appearance of anomalies is very random. I don't know which one will appear first and when. While speaking, Qin Yu was manipulating the words on the light screen in his mind. He no longer needs to operate manually, he just needs to communicate with the system in his mind. Natasha Romanoff folded her arms, and the mountains seemed even more vast. So, the objects in the collection that follow, will be stronger one by one. Maybe. But I'm sure they'll be weirder than each other. Nick sighed secretly, don't you know even a little bit of information? Like where it might appear. The extent of the damage caused. I'm just an ordinary PhD in the Foundation. How could I know information that even the boss of the Foundation doesn't know? Qin Yu showed a regretful expression. Anomaly Containment Inventory, 5th place 076 Able Object Class, Keter Description, Anomalous Containment 076 consists of 2 parts: a rock cube, Anomaly Containment 076-1, and the humanoid entity that exists in it, Anomaly Containment 076-2. Anomaly Containment 076-1 is 3 meters long, with patterns of unknown civilization carved on both the inside and outside. According to radioisotope analysis, the object is 10,000 years old. The cube is locked tightly, and the key has not been found yet. Abnormal Containment 076-2, nearly 30 years old, olive skin, 1.96 meters tall. Mysterious tattoos all over the body. While it was in Anomalous Containment 076-1, it was technically dead. An 8-meter-long cube. Isn't this a coffin? And a dead one? Is the subject this time a vampire? Not a vampire. Could this Abel be the same Abel from the Bible? The one killed by Cain? Wow, if that's true, that would be so exciting. First it's Angel, then Abel. Will there be Jesus and God later? S.H.I.E.L.D. Qin Yu smiled as he watched the comments, thinking, God will exist in the future, but Jesus already exists. At the moment, Natasha Romanoff asked, Keter, what does it stand for? Difficulty of containment. Simply put, Euclid is easy and Keter is difficult. Qin Yu said slowly. Nick, difficult? The Foundation didn't seem to have much trouble containing Angel Wanyu and the terrible old man. Director, this effortless is a valuable experience gained by the Foundation at the cost of the lives of countless agents and staff. Qin Yu said with a hint of indifference. Nick was silent. Somewhere in the suburbs, Jean Grey and Scott walked together. Scott looked very excited. Qin, no kidding, I really want to give you a surprise this time. He pointed to something covered with grey canvas not far away, which looked like a car. Look. This is a gift for you. The words haven't finished yet. The sky suddenly darkened. Then, a blinding beam of light with rainbow colors blasted toward the ground. Boom! What a coincidence, it hit the grey canvas exactly. Scott's surprise exploded instantly. Several burnt tires popped out, looking quite funny. The beam of light dissipated, leaving obscure patterns on the ground. Loki looked around. This is the world of Midgard, there is no mistake. But you don't seem to be very proficient in using the Bifrost, Thor. Yeah, it's the first time after all. Sorry for breaking your, whatever it was. Thor said to Scott and Jean. Then, he strode forward, let's go find the containment, Loki. Scott watched Thor and Loki walk away. A muscle in his face twitched. He was angry but dared not speak out. The moment the light screen appeared, General Ross ordered his men to search quickly. Report any traces of anomalous containment objects anywhere to him immediately. He had wanted to collect the slime from the scary old man before. However, any material will be easily corroded by it, and not even a drop can be collected. This made him very unhappy. Suddenly, one of his men called him. The voice was very excited, General Ross. We dug out a huge amount of coffins from the ground. It is exactly the same as the information on the light screen. This must be an anomalous containment object. Ross was ecstatic, report your location to me immediately. Also, bring the abomination here. We must take down this Abel. Oh. Qin Yu looked at the picture in his mind and smiled slightly. It looks like the fun is about to begin. I'm really curious about who will win in the battle between Abomination and Abel. Chapter 30. On the screen, the subtitles were updated again. Anomaly Containment 076-2 occasionally resurrects afterwards. He will leave Anomalous Containment 076-1. He fell into a trance and looked for the nearest human being. After coming into contact with a human, Anomaly Containment 076-2 will go into a violent state until it kills the other person. Anomaly 076-2 possesses the strength and speed of Superman, though is not indestructible. Its most unusual ability is the ability to materialize bladed weapons out of thin air. If Anomaly Containment 076-2 dies, its remains will quickly decay and turn into dust. Afterwards, it will be reassembled in Anomalous Containment 076-1. Currently, all attempts to destroy Anomalous Containment 072-1 have failed. What the hell, what does that mean? Basically invincible, and infinitely resurrectable. He was resurrected in that coffin, right? And the coffin can't be destroyed? Doesn't that mean the Earth will suffer every once in a while? This reminds me of Zoda. I think, at least he's not a tyrant. People like the shy ones are really hopeless. This Abel can at least be killed. It's worse than a shy person. This thing will come back to life. Who can stand it over and over again? Shy people are no longer a threat if they are locked up. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick hurriedly asked Qin Yu, how is it? Is this thing a serious threat? Is there any way to eliminate it? Qin Yu pretended to think for a moment. According to the limited information provided by the Foundation, his physical fitness is comparable to Hulk's, and his ability to transform weapons is extremely terrifying. What would happen if it appeared in the center of the city? Natasha Romanoff frowned. Oh, it's simple. The moment Abel appears, he will start slaughtering people and he won't stop until he dies. So, you can start praying. Qin Yu couldn't help but recall. After he took in the scary old man, the reward obtained is Anomalous Containment 073 Kane. That is Abel's brother. Kane's abnormal effect is that he is extremely tough and can rebound all attacks. Coincidentally, the person listed after the scary old man is Abel. If Qin Yu let these two enemies meet, I wonder, what interesting things will happen. Stark Building. Tony was welding a bulky steel armor. This is the Mark generation. After escaping death in the Middle East, Tony did not give up the idea of making armor. But it took practice. Even characters from the Bible are here. Tony muttered to himself while busying himself. It seems that it is still necessary to make a set of armor. Camartage. Ancient One thought thoughtfully. The previous Sorcerer Supreme once said that the characters in the Bible all exist on Earth. They are ancient, mysterious, and powerful. I didn't expect that I would be able to see them today. If Abel existed, then his brother Cain must have existed. If these two met, I don't know what would happen. In the Bible story, Cain and Abel were the children of Adam and Eve. Cain killed Abel cruelly out of jealousy. Inside the secret room, Caecilius's eyes radiated fanaticism. Abel actually exists. He knew that anyone who had anything to do with mythology was extremely powerful. He didn't want to wait any longer. This was his chance. This Abel is full of anger, and black magic will surely bewitch him. In this way, Abel will also become a loyal believer of Dormammu. The end of the Ancient One has arrived. Kill her and Dormammu will come. By then, the Foundation will not be able to stop it. Think of this. Caecilius stroked the sling ring in his hand. When the light screen shows Abel's position, he and his men will take action. Images began to play on the light screen. In the desert, next to a giant sarcophagus about 8 meters long, several soldiers were trying to unlock it. It looks like they have been trying for a long time. No, General, these locks can't be opened at all. A soldier reported to Ross helplessly. At the moment Ross was hiding in a tank in the distance. Can't open it? Then use a gun. Ross looked very impatient and fanatical. Under his command, the soldiers began shooting at the locks. Dense bullets were fired as if they were free. Jingle on the lock. But the soldiers had run out of bullets. The locks still don't have a scratch on them. Ross's teeth were chattering. Bombard me. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick watched this scene and shouted in horror, Ross, this lunatic. What is he doing? He immediately grabbed the communicator and called Ross. Natasha Romanoff looked at Qin Yu anxiously. They shouldn't be able to open this sarcophagus, right? Maybe. It seems that all organizations are very interested in these anomalies. But, can they really grasp them? Qin Yu sneered. Natasha Romanoff bit her lip. This sarcophagus is in the desert. Even if the contents are released, it shouldn't cause too many casualties, right? Oh, it doesn't take Abel too long to run from the desert to the city. If he wants to, it's easy for him to run to this spaceship. Hearing this, Natasha Romanoff shuddered secretly. Qin Yu secretly controlled the camera. Natasha Romanoff, you still have to hope that those people can't open the sarcophagus. Nick, who was standing by, couldn't get through to Ross on the phone. FK, damn it. The agent team must go out immediately. To the desert. Round after round of explosions bombarded the sarcophagus. Wait until the smoke clears. The sarcophagus was intact. The locks were still not opened. Keep bombing. Use rockets, tanks, and mortars. I don't believe this thing can't be opened. Ross roared. Another round of artillery fire roared. But, when the smoke cleared, there was still no effect. Ross was about to clench his fists and break them. Damn it, what the hell is going on? Is this thing from outer space? Just at this moment. I don't know if it was the intense artillery fire that woke up the people in the sarcophagus. The sarcophagus suddenly began to shake violently. The soldiers nearby were so frightened that they ran away. Ross stood up suddenly, his eyes full of excitement. It finally worked. Come on, let me see what you are made of. All the locks popped open with a bang. The lid of the sarcophagus slowly opened. After a while, the smoke and dust dissipated. A tall and slender figure slowly appeared. Chapter 31. A man with olive skin and obscure mysterious patterns tattooed all over his body appeared in front of everyone. Hey! He sighed. It appears, it's Abel. He's so handsome. Is this the Abel in the Bible? It's nothing like what I imagined. It feels full of evil. The light screen says that Abel is not indestructible, so these troops may really be able to kill him. That's impossible. The light screen said that Abel has super strength and super speed. And he can also create blades out of thin air. I laughed. Can a blade be compared with a machine gun or a cannon? Just wait and see. Abel will definitely be the first one to show the abnormality in the instant trend. S.H.I.E.L.D. Damn, Ross, that BD. Seeing Abel really run out, Nick was almost scared to death. Qin Yu, can the army's firepower deal with him? Qin Yu pretended to think for a moment. I'm afraid not. Their firepower is still too small. If Shield's support can arrive in time, maybe it will be possible. Qin Yu seemed to have thought of something. Doesn't Ross have a monster called Abomination? Maybe it can deal with Abel. The abomination that almost destroyed a city. Nick was stunned. Oh, damn, forget it. Ross doesn't really want to do this. Abel gasped. There was coldness in his eyes. He was filled with confusion and bewilderment. He scanned his surroundings. He saw dozens of soldiers pointing guns at him. He had been asleep for a long time and had no idea what those guns were. He walked toward the nearest soldier. Abel is nearly 2 meters tall and looks quite oppressive. The soldier began to tremble all over. Hey, don't come over here. He pulled the trigger subconsciously. Bang! Abel instantly waved his arms. In an instant, he caught the fired bullet. Under the soldier's terrified gaze, Abel carefully observed the bullet. Then he threw it aside. His eyes were filled with anger. Ross's eyes were full of fanaticism, and his voice trembled. It can even catch bullets. What a powerful creature! Abel rushed forward in an instant. It was so fast that the soldier had no time to react. He grabbed the soldier by the neck and lifted him up, a hole. His voice was very low, like the whisper of an ancient god. Suddenly, he seemed to be struck by electric current. His eyes widened in anger instantly. All the grief and anger from the past flooded into his mind. He roared. In an instant, the soldier's head was pulled off. Blood gushed out like a fountain. It seemed as if there was a bloody rain in the sky. The soldiers around were terrified. He ignored Ross's orders and fired without authorization. The bullet hit Abel's body. It only causes scratches. Abel braved the hail of bullets and tore the soldiers in half one by one. The battlefield was dyed red with blood, like a red ocean. At the moment, a soldier raised a bazooka. Shot towards Abel. Abel caught it immediately. Gave it back to him. A loud explosion sounded. The resulting shockwave almost overturned the tank Ross was riding in. Ross realized something was wrong. If this continues, I might also suffer. It seems that the only thing I can do is release hatred. He didn't want to do that, because Abomination was a flawed piece of work. Often loses control, like when fighting the Hulk. Ross pressed a red button. Rear. The Abomination in the darkness opened its eyes. He roared. In an instant, he broke open the iron door that imprisoned him. He saw Abel, who was killing people. He gave a terrifying smile. Ah, a powerful opponent. Under the light curtain, people immediately recognized the identity of the abomination. This monster, isn't it an abomination? I thought he was dead. Is this the monster that almost destroyed New York? Even Hulk was almost killed by him. Is he going to fight Abel? I'm actually looking forward to it. I feel like Abel will win. He's a character from the Bible after all. I'm betting on the abomination. Previously, we used artillery fire to attack the containment objects, but this time it's different. The abomination almost killed Hulk. S.H.I.E.L.D. Damn it, he really released the abomination. Nick's voice trembled. One monster is hard enough to deal with, and here comes another one. This is going to be difficult. Isn't this a good thing, Director? If the two of them fight to a draw, S.H.I.E.L.D. can take them in before the Foundation does. Qin Yu said calmly. Contain that kind of thing. Nick couldn't even imagine it. The scary old man left a deep shadow on Nick. It was difficult for him to have any more illusions about the inmates. In the light curtain, abomination charged forward greedily. Crashed all the cars and tanks on the road. Go straight to Abel. Abel also noticed the abomination. He stopped killing immediately. The size of the abomination is 3 times larger than that of Abel. With every step he took, the ground seemed to tremble. The abomination lunged at Abel. Abel was not ambiguous either. A punch hit the disgusting abdomen. Abomination suddenly felt a sharp pain. It was as if high-voltage electricity surged into his body. Then, his eyes were filled with green bloodshot. Green blood spurted out of his mouth. He flew backwards more than 10 meters and finally fell heavily to the ground. Abomination tried to get up. But, I couldn't move at all. Like a lifeless corpse. Under the light curtain, everyone was shocked. No way, it's over with just one punch. Is this the power of an anomalous containment object? It's simply a dimensionality reduction attack. Oh my god. As expected of Abel. Nick secretly breathed a sigh of relief. At least, there was only one monster left. When the S.H.I.E.L.D. people arrive, maybe they will be able to deal with Abel. It seems that the Foundation does not need to take action this time. Loki and Thor perceived the anomaly here very early. They had arrived long ago. At this moment, I am watching the battle from a distance. Thor, is this human, called Abel? I heard from my father that he is one of the gods of Midgard. He is indeed very powerful. The gods of Midgard. Loki sneered, they are just stronger monkeys. This is very rude, Loki. We should respect other civilizations. Thor said dissatisfiedly. He watched Abel slowly walk towards the fallen abomination. It seems that my mount is currently unavailable. I can't ride the god of Midgard back to Asgard. Don't worry, Thor. Loki showed a meaningful smile, there are still a lot of storage objects in the back. You will definitely find a mount that satisfies you. Ross looked at the abomination who had fallen to the ground and frowned deeply. I didn't expect that this Abel was so powerful that he could injure the abomination like this with just one punch. It seems that abomination has to use that form. I have transformed him since his defeat by Hulk. However, abomination in that form will completely lose his mind. Ross thought so. At the same time, abomination suddenly opened his eyes. Blue light poured out from it. He roared and stood up. The body began to swell rapidly. His muscles expanded so much that they tore through his skin, revealing his blue-green flesh. His bones also began to crackle. Huge, sharp bones were constantly pouring out of his fists, head, joints, and back. The abomination has completely transformed into a monster. There is only killing in his eyes now. He roared and rushed towards Abel. Chapter 32. Abel was not afraid at all and went forward to meet him. The two men's fists collided. With a bang. The air hummed. The sand and dust were blown up like a tsunami. The two began to fight each other. Soon, Abel's face was hit so hard that his bones were exposed. The abomination's jaw was also completely shattered. Abomination roared. The fist was like a meteor hammer, hitting Abel from bottom to top and sending him flying. Abel flew more than 10 meters in the air. Landed smoothly. He stretched out his hand. Seems to be holding something. I saw a huge amount of sickle being pulled out from the void by Abel. Abel held a sickle in his hand, like the death god, and faced the hatred rushing towards him without fear. Abomination punched out. Abel dodged. The sickle slashed down. In an instant, the hateful arm was cut off. Blood gushed out of the abominable severed limb and he screamed in agony. The other hand tried to grab Abel's arm. Abel dodged and slammed his scythe into the abomination's chest. Abomination wailed. He grasped the blade of the sickle in one go and broke it. Abel immediately reached his hand into the void. This time, he drew out an extremely huge sword. The blade was replaced by saw teeth and rotated at high speed. With Abel's waving, the chain sword flew into a shower of sparks. He rushed towards the abomination. The chain sword chopped down. The teeth sliced through the abominable flesh with ease. Blue-green blood gushed out like a waterfall. In an instant, the abomination's right arm was also cut off. Then Abel leaned down and slashed horizontally. The disgusting legs were cut off neatly. The remains of the abomination fell to the ground. All he could do was wail. Abel walked towards him slowly. Stepped on him. Then he raised the chainsword and chopped down. Start sawing downwards from the abomination's head. In an instant, sparks, blood, and brain matter merged into one and splashed wildly. The scene was extremely shocking. Soon, the remains of the abomination were also sawed in half. It's no use changing the form, it's still a dimensionality reduction attack. Wow, where did he get his weapon from? That chainsword is so cool. As expected of Abel. I will never underestimate any anomalous containment again. I suddenly remembered. In the Bible, his brother Cain killed him. Now I am curious, how terrifying must the person be who could kill Abel? Aren't you afraid? No one can stop Abel now. We will be his next target. Foundation, come and rescue us. What method will the Foundation use this time? S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick's eyes were dazed, and he was already stuttering with shock. What should I do next? Even Abomination has been beaten like this. Next, he's going to massacre the city, right? Natasha Romanoff also stared at the screen in a daze. Is there anyone else who can stop him? Ross's soldiers had long since died in the aftermath of the battle. At the moment he was hiding in the tank. Looking at Abel, he exclaimed with heartfelt admiration, "What a beautiful creature! How powerful! Simply invincible!" Suddenly, Abel turned his head. Across the tank, he made eye contact with Ross. Ross suddenly felt as if he had fallen into an icy cave. Abel walked toward him, his chainsword dragging along the ground, emitting brilliant sparks. Ross finally got scared. He began to tremble all over. But Abel felt so overwhelmed by the huge amounts of pressure that he couldn't move. Right now. Around Abel. Sparks burst into the air. Then, 5 portals opened. Caecilius and his men walked out. They simultaneously threw magic chains at Abel. In an instant, Abel's body was tightly tied up with chains. He roared and struggled desperately. Huge amounts of power almost broke the chains. It seemed that Caecilius and others were about to give up. 5 more portals opened. 5 more chains wrapped Abel almost like a dumpling. Caecilius fired a fireball, knocking the chain sword out of Abel's hand. This way, he would have no room to resist. That's it. Quick, perform the ritual. Caecilius shouted excitedly. Several magicians ran out of the portal. They sat around Abel, holding books of strange styles. After casting the spell, a magic circle of huge amounts of appeared under Abel's feet. Connect him to those magicians. Suddenly, a black and purple light enveloped the entire magic circle. Once the spell is complete, Abel will also become a follower of Dormammu. Camartage. Ancient One looked at the scene in the light curtain and sighed. She had known about Caecilius's betrayal. However, he couldn't bear it and destroyed it with his own hands. It seems that we have to take action now. The Ancient One uses his power to make Dormammu come faster. But, there is no other choice. She held out her white hand. The magical energy began to surge. Her whole body began to radiate a divine glow. This is the state in which she mobilizes all the strength in her body. She hasn't been like this in a long time. At the same time, the rune of Dormammu appeared on her forehead. Abel had a bad feeling. He felt that his soul was growing weak. He knew he had to do something. He stretched out his hand. From the void, he took out a few flying darts. Chapter 33. The blade flew out quickly. It instantly hit the magicians' heads. Puff! The magicians were killed instantly before they could react. Blood gushed out like a fountain. As the magic circle was interrupted, the black and purple energy began to backfire. Boom! Huge amounts of explosions blew up the magicians' bodies. And the chains that bound Abel were blown to pieces. Half of Abel's face was covered with smoke from the remnants of magic. Only bones are left. Half of the ribs were also exposed. Like an evil ghost. He is now furious. Reach your hands into the void. Draw out 2 chain swords. The saw blade spun rapidly, and the high temperature turned it white. He rushed towards a magician. The magician summoned the magic shield in fear. Abel chopped. He was sawed in half, shield and body. The body parts flew far away. Caecilius watched the scene in disbelief. It's about to succeed, why? Almost there. Even just 5 more seconds. Abel will become Dormammu's slave. Hateful. Fight back! Fight back! Caecilius yelled. The magicians threw out the chains again, trying to tie up Abel. Abel didn't back down at all. Waving the great sword, he rushed towards them. Countless chains were swung over and were chopped into pieces by the great sword. It turned into sparks and disappeared into the air. Abel cut the magicians into pieces one by one like cutting melons and vegetables. Whatever spells they used, they had no effect. Fear appeared in Caecilius' eyes. He was constantly backing away. No, it's impossible. He didn't believe that there was anything in this world that was invincible. He opened his arms. You know what magic is? Damn containment! Suddenly, the space around him began to distort. The ground folded up and turned over. It forms a vertical hollow cube. The sand turned into bridges one by one. Connect the 4 faces of the cube. This scene is so magical, like a dream. Caecilius leaped upward. He laughed crazily, ha 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 ha. Damn containment! Did you see that? This is the mirror space. My domain. Get ready to die. Abel doesn't care about mirror space. Rushed towards Caecilius. Caecilius gave a sinister smile. He stretched out his hand. The mirror space suddenly began to shatter. He picked up a fragment from it. The sharp edge is like a blade, and it is very dazzling under the light. Under the light curtain. What the hell, what is this? An alternate dimension. Is this person a magician? This time, Abel is doomed. Impossible. Abel is unstoppable. The magician will just die later. Abel is too strong. It seems like nothing can stop him. I unilaterally declare that Abel is the strongest of all the containment objects that have appeared so far. His chain sword is so cool. From Thor's perspective, Abel and Caecilius disappeared in an instant. He asked in confusion, Loki, did you see that? How come they disappeared in an instant? Loki smiled. As the #1 magician in the 9 realms, it is impossible for him to know nothing about the mirror space. This is a very strange magic. Kind of interesting. I didn't expect that a magician from the world of Midgard could use magic of this level. Camartage. A fragment of the mirror dimension. Ancient One murmured, you are indeed very capable, Caecilius. Her hands stretched out, forming a triangle. Aiming at the position of Caecilius and Abel in the light curtain. At the same time, her eyes turned white as they were filled with energy. The fluctuations generated by the energy ruffled her hair. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick stared at the screen nervously. What are these people doing? Are they magicians? Why would anyone want to mess with the containment? Natasha Romanoff, if this magician is defeated, is there anything that can stop Abel? It's probably not a good thing that the magician won. Qin Yu said slowly, the magic circle they just used is probably to summon something. There are many terrifying things in this universe that are beyond our imagination. Natasha Romanoff said in disbelief, could there be a monster more powerful than Abel? Who knows? I'm just an ordinary doctor. Qin Yu smiled slightly, you should ask the boss of the Foundation about these secrets. Notify the agent team not to go any further and return immediately. Nick sighed. He understood that no matter who won between the two of them, neither would be able to be dealt with by S.H.I.E.L.D.'s agents. There's no need to die. Caecilius held a shard in one hand, his chest heaving violently, his eyes wide. Come on, come on. Damn containment. Abel rushed forward. Although he was prepared, Caecilius was still surprised by the speed. He was so frightened that he broke out in a cold sweat. Jump up immediately. At the same time, it drives the terrain changes in the mirror space. Try your best to stop Abel's progress. At the same time, he threw the fragments in his hand towards Abel. It pierced into Abel's body in an instant. Caecilius was delighted to see the effect. He constantly dodged upward. The bridges made of yellow sand constantly collapse and reform. Space constantly flips and twists. Caecilius used this to slow Abel down. Abel constantly pursued. Caecilius constantly attacks Abel with shards. Soon, Abel's body and head were covered with fragments. But still, he moved forward. It seems that there is no pain at all. Caecilius was getting really anxious. He roared. Huge amounts of magic circles unfolded. With a bang, dozens of fireballs flew towards Abel. Abel swung his chain sword and cut them off with ease. The fireballs all exploded before they hit Abel. Caecilius summoned several more duplications. Red silk appeared from their hands and tried to tie up Abel. But, the chainsaw sword cut them into pieces in one go. Then, Abel threw out flying darts. Kill all the duplications. Caecilius almost despaired and wanted to run away immediately. Just at this moment, Abel reached his hand into the void. A 200-meter-long whip knife was pulled out from inside. He threw it out with force. In an instant, Caecilius was tied up. Then Abel pulled him over. Caecilius's eyes were filled with despair and fear. He has been a genius since he was young and has never lost to anyone in anything. This is the first time he has been so embarrassed. No matter what method is used, whether conspiracy or frontal attack, the opponent cannot be defeated. What on earth are you? Ugh! Before he could finish his words, Abel grabbed him by the neck. His head was full of fragments of the mirror space. The look in his eyes was like that of a man-eating evil spirit. With Abel's effort, Caecilius' face instantly turned purple. Veins popped out on his neck. The mirror space also began to shatter. It broke into pieces like glass and eventually disappeared. Even the fragments on Abel's body disappeared. Caecilius saw stars. He couldn't breathe, was in great pain, and began to feel dazed. Even the brain starts to go in circles. It's over. This magician can't do anything to Abel. He's just too strong. Nothing I do works. It's really despairing. What should we do next? Can the Foundation really contain Abel this time? Caecilius is near death. Just at this moment, a dark-skinned man dressed in classical clothes walked over. Abel, the man said. The voice was like that of a wise man, full of magnetism and apology. Hear this sound. Abel was stunned. He would never forget that voice. Whether hundreds or thousands of years have passed. His eyes were immediately filled with bloodshot hatred. Then he dropped Caecilius. Turned around. Hand stretched out towards the void. Chapter 34. Qin. Abel pulled out a chainsaw sword from the void. His only remaining eye was filled with rage, as if it wanted to burn Qin to death. I'm sorry, Abel. Qin's face was full of sadness and guilt. Abel said, this guy is, Qin? Holy shit, he really is a guy from the Bible. That's 100% right. The names match, and Abel hates Qin, while Qin feels guilty towards Abel. It matches the image in the Bible exactly. Does it depend on Qin to deal with Abel? But he looks harmless, what super ability does he have? How dare Qin come here? Abel can kill him in a minute. S.H.I.E.L.D. Why is there another person? Nick took a breath. Wait a minute, Abel said he was Qin? What does that mean? Is he really a mythical figure? He just walked towards Abel, without realizing the danger at all. Natasha Romanoff stared at the light screen nervously. Is this Qin also an abnormal containment object? Nick was stunned when he heard what Natasha Romanoff said. Yes, if Abel is an anomalous containment object, his brother must be too. It really never ends. First it was the hatred, then this magician who came from nowhere, and now his brother is here too. Nick's expression was very painful. Maybe it's a good thing? Qin seems very friendly. Maybe S.H.I.E.L.D. can communicate with him. Forget it. Nick Fury shook his head quickly. It would be best if they both died together. Qin walked slowly toward Abel. Over the past thousands of years, I constantly regretted what I had done, and I never begged for your forgiveness. Qin did not show any fear. Abel's chainsaw sword glowed white due to the high temperature, Kill you, Qin, I will kill you. Abel growled. Raised the chainsword. Qin closed his eyes. Kill me if you want, brother. Abel exerted all his strength. The chainsaw sword drew a graceful arc. And it struck Qin on the head. Sizzle. A strange scene happened. Abel's body was sawed in half out of thin air. They fell on the left and right sides respectively. But Qin was unharmed. Abel's body began to decay rapidly. And Qin coughed. He covered his head, as if he was feeling pain. He looked at the rotting flesh of Abel on the ground. Sighed to oneself. After a while, a researcher in Foundation uniform came over. He looked at Abel's body. Then, he said to Qin, "Thank you, high-level researcher, Qin." Under the light curtain, everyone's jaw dropped. FK, Abel, who would kill gods and Buddhas if they stood in his way, is gone just like that. So Qin's super ability is to reflect damage? Doesn't this make him invincible? Qin is a high-level researcher at the Foundation? My god, they actually let people from the Bible come to work here. Can this Foundation dare to be a little more perverted? I suddenly feel a little sorry for Abel. He killed so many enemies, but in the end he was killed by his own brother. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury was incredulous. He died in an instant? This Qin is so strong? And he's a researcher at the Foundation. How many secrets does this Foundation still hide? Natasha Romanoff lowered her head and thought, the researchers of the Foundation are so mysterious and powerful, then what kind of person would the boss of the Foundation be? Qin Yu on the side smiled but said nothing. Camartage. The Ancient One finally lowered his hand. It seems that there is no need to take action. The energy around her dimmed. The rune on the forehead also disappeared. He noticed that Caecilius had disappeared. This Foundation is even more mysterious than I thought. Ancient One sighed. She originally thought that she had mastered most of the knowledge in the universe. Now it seems that it is not even the surface. At the moment Stephen Strange has been taken to Camartage. He is learning the basic skills of a magician under Wang's guidance. And Mordo, at the moment, was looking up information in the library. In fact, he has worked hard for many years to become an excellent magician. But, compared with ability, it is still not worth mentioning. Stephen Strange's ability was personally approved by the Sorcerer Supreme. Mordo was not jealous, he just felt a little emotional. Yes, it is. The Ancient One doesn't see your value at all. You should be the next Sorcerer Supreme. When Mordo heard the voice, he was stunned at first. This voice gave Mordo an inexplicable impulse. It seems to be full of charm. Then, he stood up quickly. Who is it? He walked towards the voice. I saw a mask with a strange face lying in the corner. Those empty eyes were filled with endless greed and corruption. In the light curtain, the data starts updating. Anomaly Containment Inventory, 5th place. Chapter 35. Anomaly Contained Object 035 occupies the mask. Object Class, Keter. Nick immediately gasped. We just finished, why are we taking inventory again? Another Keter. The shock that Abel left him with had not yet subsided. New collections are coming. This terrified Nick Fury. It was hard for him to imagine any containment being stronger than Abel. Oh, that's it. Qin Yu looked at the light screen and said casually. Natasha Romanoff immediately asked, why? Is this thing more terrifying than Abel? I don't know the details, but I can be sure of this. Qin Yu showed a mysterious smile. This possession mask, its anomalous effects, and the previously inventoried containment objects are not in the same dimension at all. Fear appeared in Natasha Romanoff's beautiful eyes, not in the same dimension. Nick Fury was also stunned. What do you mean? For details, you can find out by looking at the inventory. Qin Yu secretly manipulated the light curtain. On the light screen, the subtitles continued to update. Anomaly Containment 035 appears to be a white porcelain comedy mask, which in some cases becomes a tragedy mask. Anomaly Containment 035's eyes and mouth continuously ooze out a highly corrosive and degenerative mucus, and any object that comes into contact with it will slowly decay. Until it becomes a substance exactly the same as the corrosive liquid. So soon, there's a new containment object. This time it's an object. It doesn't seem so scary. Don't have any illusions. The objects in the collections are bound to be more terrifying than the last one. Oh my god. I have to write a suicide note quickly. secreting corrosive mucus. This reminds me of the scary old man. Does this information mean that anyone who brings him along will be corrupted? It seems okay, and it will be fine if we don't touch it. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick frowned. It's corrosive slime again. Are you sure it has nothing to do with the scary old man? The scary old man left a deep shadow on Nick. Every time he has a nightmare, the corrupted agents come to seek revenge on him. At the moment, it seems that turning people into corrosive creatures is not that scary. I hope so. Above the Stark building, a silver, very bulky robot was flying in the air. The person inside was Tony. He has successfully developed Mark I. A test flight is underway. He was in the air and could see the light curtain very clearly. Occupy mask. He pondered, why is it called Occupy? Keter level containment is definitely not that simple. The information continues to be updated. People who are at a certain distance from or have visual contact with anomaly containment 035 will have a strong urge to wear it on their face. Afterwards, anomalous containment 035 will release brain waves, and the person wearing it will immediately suffer brain death and possesses the inherent consciousness of anomalous containment 035. After that, the possessed body will decay rapidly, and eventually become like a mummified body. A body that has decayed to the point of being unable to move. Anomalous containment 035 will also give it a high degree of movement ability. I knew it wouldn't be that simple. When you see him, you want to put it on. You will instantly become brain dead and turn into a mummy? Isn't this too scary? Oh my god, isn't this just killing yourself? I would rather be killed by Abel, at least I know how he died. Mind control. My god, why are these anomalous containment objects more perverted than the others? S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick was suddenly shocked. You want to wear it when you see him? Isn't this a cognitive hazard? No wonder it is rated Keter. This alone is already terrifying. The previous containments did not have any mental abilities. This one occupies the mask. It might really be the most terrifying containment so far. Imagine a super ability being that can destroy a city. Or magician. Bewitched by the mask, put it on, and be controlled by it. That would definitely be a disaster. Unless the mask has no ill will towards humans. But this is impossible. He immediately ordered the agents to pay close attention to the situation around the world. Report immediately if you hear of someone occupying the mask. After all, if it occupied an ordinary person's body, it could still be controlled. Loki looked at the contents of the light screen and smiled slightly, a mask that can bewitch people. Interesting. I think it suits you very well, Thor. Go to hell. As the god of Asgard, I won't be bewitched by a mere mask. Thor wiped his beloved hammer. Oh, really? You can't even resist the temptation of good wine. Loki said. Just wait and see. If we encounter this mask, I will definitely smash it with my own hands. Such an evil thing should not exist in the 9 realms. Camartage. Bewitching and possessing others' body. Her brows were furrowed. These anomalous containment objects are truly more terrifying than each other. If it is possessing others' body of someone with powerful ability. I can't imagine it. She had fought against dark creatures of the mind-polluting variety. Countless magicians were bewitched by him and turned to attack their own people. Therefore, she is well aware of the horror of this ability. Camartage, library. Mordo unconsciously walked slowly towards the mask. He didn't even understand whether it was his own idea or the mask that bewitched him into doing so. What, are you? Mordo's voice trembled a little. Oh, great Mordo. The smiling face occupying the mask seemed to have a kind of beautiful weirdness. I am just a mask, and you will be the greatest magician in the world. Suddenly, Mordo had a strong urge. He really wanted to wear this mask on his head. But his reason told him that this mask was very dangerous. So, he summoned the magic circle. You are an evil thing. I will destroy you. Oh, great magician Mordo, are you willing to let your ability be buried forever? The words of the mask constantly impacted Mordo's sanity. The great temptation is like a naked beauty posing in front of you. The residence. Mordo constantly shook his head. His mind told him that it was time to destroy the mask. But, in his heart, he believed that what the mask said was right. The mask continued, that damn Stephen Strange, an ordinary person who is nothing, came to Camartage and took the place that should have belonged to you. Come, wear me. Wear me and you will have unrivaled power. Strange, Ancient One, will all be defeated by you. Shut up. Mordo pointed the magic circle at the mask. Ancient One must be right. She has her reasons for choosing Strange. I am not qualified. Not qualified. You are really loyal to the Ancient One, but is the Ancient One loyal to you and Camartage? Think carefully, why can the Ancient One live so long? Mordo was stunned. He had long doubted the lifespan of the Ancient One. But out of respect for her, I never investigated or even suspected it. The mask took the opportunity to say, she absorbed the power of the dark space. She betrayed Camartage. She threw herself into the arms of Dormammu. Mordo shook his head absent-mindedly. Impossible, impossible, how could the Ancient One? Don't lie to yourself, Mordo. What you should believe in is yourself. Wear me, and you can get everything, know everything, and fear nothing. Finally. The last line of defense in Mordo's heart collapsed. He grabbed the mask. Chapter 36. Put it on. Suddenly, Mordo's body began to tremble violently. His brain is completely dead. A stream of black mucus began to erode Mordo's body. The consciousness occupying the mask has completely taken over this body. Ah! Mordo looked at his hands. A magician's body is different from a human's. Although it doesn't have much ability, it's enough for a while. He looked inside the library. Now, Ancient One, I will give you a big surprise. He he he. Mordo's laughter is very creepy. Not long after. Images began to play on the screen. Caecilius crawled into a dilapidated wooden house. He looked badly injured. Damn it. Damn Ancient One, damn Abel, just wait. Wait until the great Dormammu comes, and you will all. Suddenly. Sparks appeared in the air. Then, the portal opened. Caecilius shuddered. He thought that the Ancient One had found this place. I was immediately scared and broke out in a cold sweat. Who knew that the person who came out was a rotten person? There was a strange mask on his face. Shit, it appeared. This is the mask of possession, right? That person's body has been corroded. Isn't this white-haired man the one who was beaten up by Abel? I thought he was dead. Is this guy a magician? He can even use a portal. It's over, the occupation mask has possessed a magician. S.H.I.E.L.D. Seeing Mordo, Nick Fury was shocked. Damn it, how did he possess the magician? This is going to be difficult. If it were an ordinary person, it would be easy to deal with. But a magician with a portal. It's definitely hell difficulty. In Abel's inventory video. Everyone saw how terrifying the magician was. If he teleports to the Black Palace and kills the president, no one can stop him. Nick covered his forehead and said, quick, check where this damn mask is now. At the moment, Natasha Romanoff seemed to have thought of something, and said to Qin Yu, is there anyone like a magician in your foundation? If you're talking about regular researchers or agents, no. If you're talking about anomalies, there are quite a few, but most of them are, not very friendly. Camartage. The Ancient One's eyes widened. Taking over the mask, he unexpectedly found Caecilius. The Ancient One understood Caecilius' ability. If he combines with the mask, strengthened physical abilities, plus Caecilius magic. It was an absolute disaster. She stretched out her finger, ready to open the portal. This time, we must take action. Because this is within her scope of responsibility. The Ancient One casts a spell. But she was surprised to find out. The portal cannot be opened. There is only one possible reason for this situation. It is an ancient forbidden magic that can block the magician's portal. This magic is extremely difficult to master. Even if Ancient One wants to use it, it will cost a certain price. This must have been the work of the occupation mask. This mask, how did it learn this magic? Ah, Caecilius. Mordo walked slowly towards him. I have heard of your name for a long time. What kind of monster are you? The sight of Mordo's rotten body gave Caecilius, who killed without blinking an eye, a chill down his spine. Everyone asks me that question. It doesn't matter who I am, Caecilius. It matters what you want. A strong temptation entered Caecilius' ears along with Mordo's words. The latter was stunned. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick suddenly felt extremely frightened. Because, if he occupied the mask, he had a deep attraction to it. He even had the urge to put on the mask. This is still through the screen. If the mask was in front of his eyes, he certainly put it on without hesitation. Beads of sweat rolled down Nick's forehead. The horror of the mask was beyond his imagination. Natasha Romanoff and Hill share that sentiment. But Qin Yu gained resistance to abnormal effects, so he was not affected. Loki stared at the screen and suddenly had a feeling. He was actually deeply attracted by the words of the mask. It seems that it has a special charm. This must be an illusion, how is this possible? Loki shook his head in disbelief. Thor said seriously, do you feel it too? Loki? I actually have a feeling, that I want to put on the mask. Even you. Loki's eyes widened, impossible, this must be an illusion. How could a dignified Asgard god be tempted by a mask? Thor sighed, it seems that we underestimated these anomalous containment objects. Stark building. The moment Tony heard Mordo speak, suddenly my mind went blank. He lost control of the mech. He fell to the ground instantly and landed heavily on the ground. It made a hole. Ugh. Damn it, what's wrong with me? Tony took off his armor. Walked out. Fortunately, he designed an excellent shock absorption system and only suffered minor scratches. He stared at the light screen in disbelief, this occupation mask, is really weird. At the moment, Pepper Potts, wearing high heels, trotted over quickly, Tony, are you okay? In the light curtain. Impossible, you can't give me what I want. Caecilius shook his head. Damn it, who the hell are you? Why are you using our magic? Can use it. You are wrong. I have learned all your magic. Both forbidden and ancient. Come, wear me, Caecilius. You can have whatever you want. Mordo stretched out his arms, you will be more powerful than the Ancient One. You will rule this planet. You will turn all the people on Earth into your slaves. You will meet the great Dormammu. At the moment, Caecilius suddenly remembered something. This mask must be an anomalous containment object. Thinking of this, his voice trembled, damn monster, stay away from me. He stretched out his palm and activated the rune shield. The magic light radiates out. Chapter 37. Caecilius fired a beam of magic light. Mordo simply stretched out his hand and flicked it away. Caecilius's eyes showed fear. Even the Ancient One wouldn't be able to deflect his attack so easily. It's amazing, you have such strong will, Caecilius. Mordo's smile became even more weird. Don't resist. I'm here to help you. As the greatest genius in the history of Camartage, are you really willing to be trampled under the feet of the Ancient One forever? Caecilius's mind suddenly became foggy. He could hardly control his impulse. He wanted to take off the mask and put it on his head right now. Liar, you monster, you must be a, damn, containment, just like, damn Abel. Caecilius covered his head and roared in despair. Don't you want to kill the Ancient One? Wear me, and you can crush her. That Abel killed all your men, don't you hate him? Wear me, and you will have unrivaled power to seek revenge on him. Crush him. Stop. Caecilius started to speak. Mordo grabbed his cheek and lifted him up. The huge amounts of power surprised Caecilius. The mucus on his hands began to corrode Caecilius's head. Maybe it was because of the temptation, but Caecilius didn't feel any pain. Caecilius looked on in horror at the possession of the mask. Its bottomless eyes, like the abyss, stared at him. Do not resist, Caecilius. Finally, Caecilius slowly reached for the mask. Take it down. Mordo's body instantly turned into a pool of pus, emitting dark and smelly smoke. Caecilius lands. Then he put the mask on his head. Suddenly, he trembled all over. The brain dies in an instant. The dark slime corroded his body. The consciousness of the mask has completely taken over Caecilius. Ah! Caecilius moved his neck and shoulders. This body, is perfect. Caecilius looked at his hands. Now, no one can stop me. Damn Foundation, prepare to die. Oh my god! Is this person possessed like this? Ah, his head is rotten. How scary. Does anyone remember the magic he used to beat Abel? He can go wherever he wants now, and no one can stop him. Oh my god, I actually have the urge to wear it on my head. And I don't feel disgusted or scared at all. Me too. Its abnormal effect is too strong. It's so scary, This occupation mask. Can the Foundation stop it? This is a magician. Even Qin can't do anything to him. Yet, even if Abel fights him again, he may not win. S.H.I.E.L.D. Damn it. Nick was horrified. He took over this white fur. Nick is well aware of the magician's power. Moreover, the person occupying the mask is extremely cunning. He would never be as reckless as Abel. Therefore, he is now a magician who can attack everything with dimensionality reduction. At least that's what Nick thought. Natasha Romanoff pursed her lips and paced back and forth, looking very anxious. Qin Yu. Foundation, is there any way to stop it? It seems that you have lost confidence in S.H.I.E.L.D. Qin Yu smiled slightly. The magician is indeed difficult to deal with, not to mention that he is possessed by the mask and possessing the other's body. At least I can't think of any way the Foundation can do it. Hearing this, Natasha Romanoff was stunned. Even the Foundation has no solution. Just when Caecilius was feeling proud. Suddenly, there was a flash of golden light. Caecilius sensed a powerful magical energy and immediately looked over there. I saw a woman with stunning beauty and extraordinary temperament slowly falling from the sky. Here comes the helper. It's a goddess. She can definitely take down this mask. She's a magician too. Great. Let them handle the magician's issues themselves. Come on, goddess, kill this damn mask. Just now, the Ancient One used the portal to reach outside the range of the spell. Then, use the haste spell and rush over desperately. Unfortunately, I was still a step too late. Caecilius gave a sinister smile. It seems that he is not surprised by the arrival of Ancient One. Ancient One, are you deeply afraid of Dormammu? Do you want to destroy it? Wear me, and you will gain unrivaled power. If you take over the mask, you will gain the body of the Ancient One. I'm afraid no one can stop it. The Ancient One's eyes suddenly widened. This mask could actually know what she desired in her heart. Moreover, his words are extremely tempting. Ancient One actually had the urge to put on the mask. But, she is Sorcerer Supreme after all. They won't go crazy like Caecilius and Mordo. Why do you want to kill Mordo? Ancient One stared at his face. Why? Because I can. Caecilius chuckled. I love helping others and fulfilling their innermost desires, including you, Ancient One. You really don't want to. The Ancient One instantly summons huge amounts of magical discs. Red-orange magical energy instantly rushed towards Caecilius. This is one of the Ancient One's killer features. Without any warning, it fired instantly. Countless dark creatures were turned into ashes by this move. She spoke to the mask in order to distract its attention and destroy it in an instant. Possessing the mask was dangerous enough, but taking over Caecilius' body as well. If it is not eliminated early, there will be endless troubles. At this time, there is no need to talk about martial ethics. Oh, haha, Caecilius smiled. He had no hope of bewitching a Sorcerer Supreme with words alone. As expected of a Sorcerer Supreme, you have a lot of combat experience. But, Caecilius held out his hand. Grab that beam of energy directly. Then, all the energy was sucked into his hands. It emitted a dazzling light. Is this all you have? He released the energy instantly. Using the same trick, it was returned to the Ancient One. The Ancient One summoned a magical shield to deflect the beam. With a loud bang, the beam of light flew in other directions. A large area of forest was destroyed in one go. Ancient One also took a few steps back due to the impact force 3. Her expression grew serious. She hadn't expected the mask to become so powerful. Caecilius put his hands behind his back elegantly. Are you surprised, Ancient One? I can tell you. I have learned all the magic in the Camartage library. In addition, with Caecilius's understanding, you are no match for me now. Don't resist. Wear me and you will get everything you want. All the magic. Ancient One was secretly surprised. Even she didn't do that. She recalled what was said in the light curtain. The occupant mask had an extremely strong memory. This must have helped him. Coupled with Caecilius' ability, his mastery of magic reached perfection. The Ancient One stood up straight, threw back his sleeves, and extended his white fingers. The blue light converges. Then, it split into 8 balls of light and blasted towards Caecilius. Caecilius chuckled and used the same move to hit the Ancient One back. Balls of light exploded in the air. It's useless, Ancient One. I know all the moves you know, and I also know the moves you don't know. The Ancient One used only one hand, waving it up and down. Looks extremely elegant. Magical rays, constantly released. Caecilius was not to be outdone. Respond with the same move. The explosion of magic has destroyed all the houses and trees nearby. There were also large holes on the ground. This shocking scene dazzled the people under the light curtain. They all cheered for Ancient One. This is the battle between magicians. A real magician would not chop each other with two large fans with 50-cent special effects. Stark building. Tony looked at the scene in surprise. Is this the power of a magician? He understood that if he was dragged into this battle wearing Mark I, there would be no chance of survival. It seems that we need to hurry up and upgrade our armor. The Ancient One began to attack more frequently. But Caecilius was able to imitate them and give back to the Ancient One. The Ancient One knew that this couldn't go on. So she clasped her hands together. Then unfold. Everything around is covered in mirrors. Suddenly, everything began to become distorted and dreamy. The Ancient One waved his hand upward. The ground rises up like a pillar reaching straight to the sky. The ground began to collapse. Caecilius fell too. Not bad, mirror space. Caecilius smiled, but unfortunately, my mirror space is above yours. Chapter 38 S.H.I.E.L.D. Except Nick Fury. All the agents were deeply shocked by the magnificent magic battle. The moment the mirror space emerged, there was an exclamation of surprise. Each of them has faced many abnormal events. But compared to the scene, it's not even children playing house. Nick Fury was worried. If even this turbulent female magician can't handle the mask, then no one can stop it anymore. This mask shows its power at this moment. It is definitely more powerful than any previous containment. The most terrifying thing is that it has a very high intelligence. Please, no matter who you are, you must not lose. Camartage. Even the apprentices who practiced magic every day were deeply shocked by the scene on the screen. They had never seen such a scene before. The Ancient One rarely takes action, perhaps not even once in 100 years. Today, the apprentices saw the Ancient One in full force. It can be said that I am lucky. Strange was even more stunned. Is this the true strength of the magician? Think about yourself, you can't even learn how to use a portal. Suddenly, a feeling of frustration came over me. Ex-college. Charles looked at the scene on the screen in surprise. Is this a battle between magicians? He couldn't help but think of it. Eric has a daughter who has high magical ability. I don't know if she will grow up to be like a female magician. There is one more person. Jean Grey. There is also terrifying potential in her body. If it is fully developed, I wonder if it can be compared with these magicians. The other side of the academy. Logan smoked a cigar and looked at the light curtain. He was deeply attracted. In all his years of life, he had never seen anything so cool. Scott on the side teased, Logan, if you get hit by them, you will definitely be left with only a metal skeleton. At that time, you will not be able to recover. Compared to this, Logan glanced at him. Magicians know so many magics, they must know the P extension spell. Go find them, you really need this, Scott. Scott complained, Logan, since you broke my motorcycle, can't you please not make fun of my, what? I was just kidding. Qin, who was standing behind them, was trying hard to hold back her laughter. In the light curtain. I'm sorry to disappoint you, Ancient One. Caecilius held out his hand, grasping. You're not the only one who can mirror space. Caecilius's hands began to twist and clench. Suddenly, the space began to distort. The dirt and buildings swirled towards the Ancient One. The Ancient One was startled. I didn't expect that occupying the mask could achieve this level. Ancient One is absolutely confident in the use of mirror space. Because she has been practicing constantly for hundreds of years. And occupying the mask, just looking at the collection of books. Is it possible to achieve this extent? Ancient One also controlled the mirror space and began to wrestle. The buildings and trees took on twisted shapes, spinning and shifting wildly around their point of contention. This scene is gorgeous and magical. The people under the light curtain couldn't even utter an exclamation. Compared to the bloody and violent massacre, the duel between magicians is truly an elegant shock. The Ancient One knew that this would lead to no results. So she waved her arms vigorously. The vortex rotates in the opposite direction. shocked Caecilius away. Then, the Ancient One mobilized all his strength. Her body was filled with golden light. This move was the same one she wanted to use against Abel before. The Ancient One raised his arms. Suddenly, a holy sword hundreds of meters long appeared in her hand. Instantly, danger signals began to sound inside Caecilius. If he were to take this attack head-on, he would definitely be reduced to ashes. The holy sword made of light slashed down towards Caecilius. He. A dark purple light appeared in Caecilius' eyes, the holy sword of Vishanti. But if I use this trick, how will you respond? Caecilius growled. A large sword with black and purple light appeared in his hand. From bottom to top, he chopped towards the Ancient One. The Ancient One immediately recognized that it was the power of Dormammu. Unexpectedly, the possession mask combined with the power of Dormammu in Caecilius developed a new trick. It's really scary. The holy sword and the dark sword, one from top to bottom, the other from bottom to top. Amid the exclamations of the crowd under the light curtain. With a bang, they collided with each other. The two energies devour and annihilate each other. The black, purple, and golden energies complement each other. The mirror space suddenly began to crack. Everything around me started to distort and shapeshift. Finally, there was a bang. The mirror space was completely shattered. The fragments flew everywhere like glass. The Ancient One and Caecilius were both hit hard on the ground by the explosion of magic. Definitely, even a magician's physical strength is much higher than that of an ordinary person. What's more, there is magical protection. So, he wasn't seriously injured. The two of them climbed up almost at the same time. Ancient One's fair face was covered with dirt. The clothes were also a bit torn. Fortunately, it was a specially made magic costume, otherwise, it would have turned into rags long ago. Ah ha ha ha. As expected of you, you're the Sorcerer Supreme. I underestimated you. But, are you tired already? A blue light appeared on Caecilius' body. Then, his energy returned directly to its peak. The Ancient One sighed. I didn't expect that I would have to use that thing in the end. She held out her hands in a triangle shape. Then expand. On her chest, the Eye of Agamotto appears. Seeing this, Caecilius suddenly showed a look of fear. He took a few steps back unconsciously, his voice trembling. How could you have, damn it, you cheated. S.H.I.E.L.D. See Ancient One to use Eye of Agamotto. Qin Yu frowned. He knew that this would bring Dormammu to Earth very quickly. With the current state of the Foundation, it would be difficult to deal with it if it encountered it. It seems that it is time to activate Plan B. In Qin Yu's mind, the room where the detainees were held appeared. If he wanted, he could deploy them to the battlefield at any time. Chapter 39. Wait. Ancient One, listen to me. Caecilius waved his hands in panic. If you open it, Dormammu will descend on Earth. The Earth will be doomed. You have to think it through. This sentence gave Ancient One a hint of hesitation. It is this moment of hesitation. Caecilius immediately opened the portal. Then he pounced in. The portal closed immediately. Caecilius, who survived the disaster, was breathing heavily. Damn! Ancient One, this madman, how could he have the time gem? Seeing Caecilius disappear, Ancient One frowned. We must not let the one occupying the mask escape. Otherwise, a major disaster may happen at any time. Under the light curtain. It's over. We were fighting fine, why did he run away? Oh no. If it shows up in the city, we'll all die. I seem to see it. The goddess just took out something, and then the mask was scared away. Please, goddess magician, go after it. Foundation, please do something. You always save the day. Everyone is very afraid of a terrifying magician who can appear anywhere. College. Charles resolutely entered the EEG room. He was going to do something. The machine starts. Under numerous red and blue light spots. Professor X quickly located Caecilius's position. At the same time, he used his ability to send a message to the Ancient One and told her the location. The Ancient One, who heard the voice, understood immediately. This is Professor X's ability. So she opened the portal. The other side. Caecilius was shocked when he saw the portal. How the hell did she find me? So he ran away again. And so, the cycle repeats itself. But every time, the Ancient One found him immediately. A desolate wilderness, full of dilapidated buildings. Just then, Caecilius rushed out of the portal desperately. He suddenly saw. On the ground, a doctor was waving at him with a smile. He was wearing a strange mask on his face. He was stunned. Is there really someone who is not afraid of death? That's perfect, we can take him as a hostage. This way, the Ancient One will not dare to activate the time gem. Thinking like this, Caecilius lunged at the doctor. But suddenly, the sky was clear just now. I don't know why, but it suddenly became very dark. Caecilius was stunned. He can feel it. This is the magic of the Ancient One. Suddenly, he broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't expect that Ancient One could successfully cast a spell at such a long distance. But he could still feel it. That doctor is in the darkness. Now, he had no choice. He had no chance to fight against the Ancient One anymore. Otherwise, the Ancient One will definitely activate the time gem. He tried his best. Rushed towards the doctor. And that doctor standing there motionless. He had his hands behind his back. The face beneath the mask. He showed a shrewd smile. And at the moment, Caecilius's hand, and about to touch the doctor's neck. Caecilius was overjoyed. But in this moment of less than 0.01 seconds, Caecilius instinctively felt the danger. He suddenly broke out in cold sweat. He felt it. Something is approaching at high speed. The next moment, Caecilius had no time to react. Crack! Only a crisp sound was heard. Caecilius' head was twisted off by a pair of statue's hands. Caecilius's head rolled off. The masked face suddenly turned into a crying face. See this scene. The Ancient One let out a sigh. She dropped her hand that was casting the spell. Just now, a mysterious person talks to her. Let her create a space to isolate herself from the outside world. Ancient One guessed. That person must be from the Foundation. Shit, was this done by someone from the Foundation? The boss of the Foundation is such a genius. He actually thought of using sculpture peanuts to deal with the occupation mask. That's amazing, why didn't I think of that? How clever. Let the female magician create a space so that the mask can't escape. Then Peanut can twist his head off. Speaking of which, Peanut is really underestimated. I originally thought that his limit was to twist off the head of the mutant. I didn't expect that such a terrifying containment object could only be killed by him in seconds. S.H.I.E.L.D. When Nick Fury saw Peanut's weird face, his body shuddered. He didn't expect that the boss of the Foundation was so brave. How dare you use a dangerous containment object to deal with another containment object? He suddenly began to get scared. Is it true that nothing unexpected will happen if one dangerous object is used to deal with another dangerous object? Fortunately, it was peanuts. If 096 is released, wouldn't that be the end of the world? Natasha Romanoff also widened her eyes in surprise. This must be a solution that the leader of the Foundation can come up with. Should I say, he is a genius. Qin Yu on the side coughed inadvertently. He looked at Dr. Bright on the screen. Not long ago, when Qin Yu came up with this idea for the first time, Dr. Bright volunteered. He said there was no one better suited to do this than him. Qin Yu also agreed. To prevent him from getting bored and causing trouble in the base. In the light curtain, the mask of occupation rolled to the ground. Watched with your own eyes. The sculpture Peanut stood right in front of him. His arms were covered in corrosive black slime, but he was not affected at all. The mask is both angry and unwilling. He has always been proud of his cunning and wisdom. But I didn't expect it. Fell into the hands of someone more cunning. Seeing this scene, Ancient One couldn't help but smile. She hadn't been like this for hundreds of years. The leader of this Foundation constantly surprises people. The Foundation agent who had arrived earlier immediately and skillfully pushed the containment room over. Soon, 173 was successfully contained again. At the moment, Dr. Bright removed his mask. He walked towards the mask lying on the ground with a smile. How's it going, 035? Are you getting along well with 173? I'll FK you old, you, I Bright. The masked man roared angrily. Have lost my mind. Started speaking Tibetan. 035 will try to trick people into wearing it in almost any situation. It is very rare for him to lose his mind. Bright sighed. How rude. He then grabbed the occupation mask with his bare hands and put it into the sack. Looking at the corroded palm, Bright didn't care. Took a panacea. The wound healed immediately. Qin Yu frowned when he saw this scene. He immediately added 2 new regulations to the Foundation. 1. Bright is forbidden to grab any containment objects with his bare hands, not even D-class personnel. 2. Bright is forbidden to put any Foundation items into the sack, including D-class personnel and other doctors. College. Logan's face was full of surprise. He hadn't expected it at all. How dare the Foundation use Peanut to deal with the Occupy mask? He hadn't expected it. How could Peanut be so strong? Battle between mask and magician. This is beyond Logan's understanding. Result. This mask can only be killed instantly by Peanut? Logan guessed. On this little Peanut. There must be more shocking secrets hidden. Thor was still in disbelief. This statue gave him an extremely strange feeling. At the beginning, Thor thought so. This statue is only capable of breaking the neck of an ordinary person. It's just a weird but not powerful monster. But, it can kill such a powerful magician instantly. Loki touched his neck unconsciously. Thor, what are you thinking? Are you afraid of this statue? What am I afraid of? Can it break the necks of the Asgard gods? This containment is somewhat interesting, but I'm still not interested. I think this thing is very suitable to be placed in your room as a decoration. Loki smiled slightly. Thor, since you like it so much, when I get it, I will definitely put it next to your bed. See if your neck is strong enough. With containment of the occupation mask complete. Above the light curtain, a new inventory began to appear. Anomaly Containment Inventory, 4th place. Chapter 40. Abnormal Containment 999, Ich Monster Object Class _safe. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick's eyes suddenly fixed. Damn it, seamless connection. This one just ended and another one came? Not even 10 seconds. Natasha Romanoff seemed to notice something. There's a new object class, safe? Does that mean safe? Nick said in disbelief. Safe? How is that possible? If it were really safe, it wouldn't be called an anomalous containment object. The trauma left by the previous anomalous containments made it impossible for him to believe that there were any kind containments. Suddenly, an agent came running over in a hurry. Oh no, Chief, Hulk has appeared. And he's wreaking havoc. What? Hulk? Nick gasped. He hasn't appeared for a long time. Why did he show up at this time? FK it. This is adding insult to injury. On the light screen, the text continued to update. Abnormal Containment 999 is a huge, ruleless, sticky orange-yellow translucent, viscous object. Its file size changes frequently, but most of the time it is 2 meters wide and 1 meter high. The surface of Abnormal Containment Object 999 has high elasticity. Anomalous Containment 999 has a temperament similar to that of a dog. When it approaches humans, it becomes extremely excited, hugging them with 2 tentacles and rubbing their faces with the 3rd. Touching the surface of the Abnormal Containment Object 999 will make people feel a kind of spiritual pleasure, which will last for a long time after separation. The target will approach anyone, but is more interested in those who are unhappy or hurt. Under the light curtain, people were dumbfounded. Ah, is this true? This containment object doesn't seem to be dangerous at all. Its object class is safe. Does that mean it's really safe? I can't believe it. After all those scary things in containment, here comes a cute one. Isn't this a good thing? It seems that not all the inmates are cruel and dangerous. There are still kind ones. I actually kind of want to meet him. Depression has troubled me for a long time. I wonder if it can be cured. Camartage. Ancient One was also surprised about 999. The shock she felt from the cunning and terrifying strength of the man who possessed the mask was far from over. Who would have thought that the next abnormal containment object would be such a heartwarming creature? It can bring spiritual pleasure to humans. So, can it calm dangerous creatures? For example, Hulk when he's angry. The Ancient One wasn't sure. If that were really possible. The value of 999 is far beyond imagination. Loki and Thor were also staring at the light curtain. Thor shook his head. Unfortunately, this containment is not what I want. What I want is a tall and mighty mount. Loki smiled slightly, I do want this thing. There is no creature without bones in Asgard, so it will be very novel there and will definitely surprise Sif. It would be nice to take it back as a pet. Loki stood up. He held up his finger. When the magician and the mask fought, I learned one of their magics, which is the portal. Now, I can go anywhere. So, as long as the position 999 appears on the light curtain, I will rush over and take it down. Whatever you say, Loki, I'm not interested anyway. However, you do have magical ability. Thor raised the wooden cup and drank the beer. The beer was bought with the Asgard gold he carried with him. He was very surprised at the time why these worthless pieces of iron could make people so excited. They are everywhere in the Asgard palace. A military base somewhere. General Ross had bandages on his arms and head. The last defeat filled him with anger and resentment. Apprehension was so close to taking down Abel. What's even more infuriating is, Ross's men got Abel's blood. But when we took it back for testing, we found that it was exactly the same as human blood. In other words, it was all in vain again. This almost made him spit out blood. It seems that this containment is just a useless slime. Ross looked at the light curtain and snorted coldly. Then there is no need to get it. After this is over, there will be 3 more objects to be collected. Among them, there must be one that I want. Ross showed a greedy and vicious look. He believed that after the experience of failure, his next action would definitely be successful. Stark building. Tony had just finished modifying his armor. He upgraded the propulsion system and armor strength. It's actually a heartwarming containment object. What a surprise! Tony took a big sip of Coke. It's the same ball, but compared to Wanyu Angel, 999 is much cuter. I actually, kind of want to encounter it. At the moment, images began to play on the screen. In the city, a huge green guy is wreaking havoc crazily. His eyes were bloodshot green. The muscles all over his body showed his terrifying strength. Hulk has completely lost his mind. He frantically smashed everything within his sight. People screamed and ran away from Hulk. The building collapsed. Smoke, flames, a burning smell. What a picture of hell! Loki's eyes lit up, here it comes. He immediately drew circles with his fingers. Sparks burst into the air and a portal appeared. Loki walked in. He didn't want to waste any time. Because he wanted to find 999 and get it before the Foundation did. Moreover, this green monster is only scary to humans. As the god of Asgard and the #1 magician in the 9 realms, Loki is confident that he can control it well. Thor waved his hand. Good luck, buddy. I won't go in with you. He burped. Loki closed the portal. He saw Hulk destroying things from a distance. Frightened people constantly ran past Loki. Midgard creatures are really cowardly. Loki sneered, let me see where 999 is. Suddenly, Hulk saw Loki at a glance. For some reason, he just didn't like the man in the green cloak. He roared, charging at Loki. Chapter 41. Loki saw the angry Hulk. He was not panicked at all. Oh, you didn't run away, but walked towards me, Loki. He stretched out his hand. Energy began to surge. Wait for Hulk to rush forward. In an instant, a blue beam of light blasted out from the palm of his hand. Hulk took the blow hard. Fly backwards immediately. But it landed smoothly. Loki looked at it with disdain. Is this all you can do? Hulk roared. The terrifying sound waves caused the air around them to begin to tremble. Loki couldn't help but be surprised. Hulk charges at Loki again. This time the speed is much faster than before. Loki quickly blasted out a beam of light. Right in the Hulk's face. But Hulk was not affected at all. Ah, isn't this the Hulk? He disappeared for a while and appeared again. So scary, this is the monster that killed so many people in New York. Ah, what should we do now? Will the Foundation help? Hulk is more powerful than the abomination. I think that Tickle monster might be able to handle Hulk. How is that possible? Hulk can crush it with one kick. Don't be ridiculous, 999 is only effective on humans. Ah, look, someone is fighting with Hulk. Who is this person? He's dressed so strangely. He looks like another magician. Loki was shocked. I immediately broke out in a cold sweat. What is this thing? Why does it get stronger the more you fight it? He put his hands together. Purple light blasted towards Hulk in a spiral. Hulk raised his arms in defense. With a loud bang. After the explosion, Hulk only suffered minor injuries. Loki was immediately horrified. Damn it! He was about to use other moves. He was grabbed by Hulk. Lifting your feet. Loki, damned Midgard creature. Put me down now, I am the god of Asgard, the first in the 9 realms. Before he could finish his words, Loki felt dizzy. Hulk swung him around and slammed him to the ground. Boom! Gravel flew everywhere, and a big hole appeared on the ground. Then, pick it up again. Boom! It hit the ground on the other side. Just like that, bang bang bang. He hit it more than 10 times before stopping. The god of weak chickens. Hulk bared his teeth and stared angrily at Loki, who was lying on the ground without any ability to resist. He roared again. He pounced towards Loki. Just before Hulk's fist was about to hit Loki, an exquisite iron hammer flew over from somewhere. With a bang, it hit Hulk's head. Hulk immediately slammed down to the ground. With a loud bang, a big pit appeared. Hulk got up. Spit out the blood in his mouth. Feeling dizzy, he saw a man wearing armor and a red cape, with long golden hair, breathing heavily, facing him. Thor just sensed that Loki was in danger and immediately flew over here. Fortunately, it wasn't too far away. Otherwise, Loki would be in danger. Hulk's rage reached a new level. Blood vessels have spread all over his body. The muscles also swelled. It looks extremely terrifying. A roar shook the sky. Thor was ready to fight, not daring to be negligent at all. The next moment, they rushed towards each other. Hulk punched Thor on the head, and Thor hit Hulk on the chin with a hammer. Both of them flew backwards. Then, they got up and rushed towards each other again. The battle between tough guys is so simple and plain. Thor is able to inflict damage to Hulk. However, Hulk's recovery ability is quite strong. But Thor's injuries are constantly getting worse. In the end, everyone under the light curtain was nervous. Looking at Thor, who was knocked away by Hulk's punch. This time, Thor's face was covered in blood. Well, he struggled to sit up. Using the hammer to support the ground, he stood up again. He realized that he had to use all his strength. So, he shouted loudly and raised the hammer to the sky. There was a gleam of light in his eyes. Suddenly, dark clouds gathered. Lightning gathers. Hulk bared his teeth and claws, ready to pounce again. The full force attacks of 2 powerful men are about to meet. Suddenly, a yellow, soft thing appeared between Thor and Hulk. It squirmed slowly, making gurgling sounds. Hulk was stunned. The fist was fixed in the air. He looked at the limp, strange creature. That expression seemed to say, "What the hell is this?" The people under the light curtain were almost melted by the cuteness. 999's cuteness far exceeded their imagination. To the point that they forgot that this was a tense and exciting battle. I don't know if this is caused by the anomalous effect of 999. At the moment, Thor was also stunned. When did this thing appear? Loki also got up and coughed. Don't be in a daze, do you still expect this ball of plasticine to deal with that monster? Let's go together. 999 on the side raised his head and looked at Hulk in a silly way. Hulk was stunned for just a moment, and anger appeared on his face again. He doesn't care whether 999 is cute or not. He raised his foot and stepped on 999. Under the light curtain. No, stop it. Oh, it's over, it's going to be crushed. No, 999, run away. Ancient One, is the only good containment going to perish? Nick, it seems that my assessment of this containment is biased, but it is indeed doomed. Stark, what a pity, I will never have the chance to touch it again. However, it was beyond everyone's expectations. Hulk stepped on 999 with his big foot. Guji. 999 was not harmed at all except for being flattened. Hulk felt like he was standing in a swamp and had no power to exert. 999 didn't seem to be angry about Hulk's rampage. Instead, he smiled and hugged Hulk's calf. Wrapping around him, then slowly creeping upwards. Hulk was stunned. He had a strange feeling. I was confused at first, and then I started laughing. What's going on, this thing, let me go. I want to kill, Oh no, it's itchy. Ha ha ha, let me go quickly, or I'll kill. Oh ha ha ha, damn, I feel. Hulk fell to the ground and began to roll around. Under the light curtain. Ha ha ha, this is so funny, Hulk was so fierce just now, but he can't stand it after being tickled. Ah, I'm dying of laughter, is this what contrast cuteness is? Ah, 999 is so cute. I want to hold it in my arms and rub it hard. I didn't expect that 999 could subdue Hulk in one go. Its strength is actually quite terrifying. Yet, where can I find such a strong and cute containment creature? What kind of taste do you have? The scary old man is obviously the cutest. I really want to hold him in my arms and suck him hard. Upstairs, I beg you, go see a doctor. On the light curtain. Hulk's laughter began to become shrill. The body size gradually becomes smaller. The green gradually fades. After a while, it became Bruce Banner. Ha 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 ha. Okay, little yellow guy, you can let go. Ha 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 ha, I'm fine now, ha ha ha. Banner laughed until he was out of breath. At the moment, he was in a very happy mood. All the previous tension, fear, and anxiety disappeared. Sensing Banner's emotions, 999 also let him go. He turned and crawled towards Thor and Loki. Thor recovered from his shock. He didn't expect that 999 would defeat Hulk so easily. Now, his impression of 999 has changed greatly. He squatted down and smiled, "Hey, little guy, I'm sorry for what I said before." He stretched out his hand and was about to touch 999. "Loki, you'd better not do that." "Thor, as a god of Asgard, I will not be deceived by Mir." But the next second, he was slapped in the face. He touched 999's tiny tentacle. Suddenly, a feeling of pleasure filled my whole body. Then, 999 climbed on top of him. Thor immediately felt itchy and started laughing wildly. "Ha ha ha, stop, don't." The great goddess Gid, the heir to the throne, rolled on the ground invisibly. Loki turned away, not wanting to watch this. He didn't notice at all that the tickle monster had let go of Thor and was crawling towards him. That soft body was already pressed against Loki's legs. Loki, not good. But, an indescribable pleasure, accompanied by itching, spread throughout the body. Loki immediately collapsed to the ground, struggling constantly. "Ha ha ha ha, let me go, I'm in a good mood, I don't need you, ah ha 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 ha." The people under the light curtain couldn't stop laughing. Pressure from life, pressure from study, all go away now. Just be happy. Even the Ancient One had a hint of a smile on his face. This happiness lasted for a long time. Until Qin Yu saw the next abnormal information. His brows suddenly furrowed. It turned out to be this. Qin Yu thought to himself. This object is extremely dangerous. Even Qin Yu was not sure he could contain it. In other words, it simply cannot be completely contained. But, what is meant to come will come. All we can do is adapt to circumstances. Words appeared on the light curtain. Anomaly Containment Inventory, 3rd place. Chapter 42. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick just sighed. After seeing 999, he understood that not all anomalous objects were evil. It would be great if the creatures in this collection could be cuter. Dr. Banner, wrapped in a blanket, was also staring at the screen. Since the last inventory was completed, Nick invited him to S.H.I.E.L.D. Banner is also happy to be here. After all, he was feeling fine now, and Hulk had fallen into peace. Here, he can better utilize his academic advantages. He walked towards Qin Yu and said, "I heard from them that you are a doctor from the Foundation." "I used to be. Now, I have parted ways with them." "I see. Then you should know a lot. I want to ask you, are there many containments like 999? "Not many. Most of the objects contained are very terrible." Stark Building. Tony was holding a purple, cinnabar-textured disc. This is a precious gift given to him by a good friend. It is said that it comes from a very ancient time. Tony was about to put it in the record player. Take a good look at this wonderful music from the past. He was humming a little tune and was in a good mood. This is because he has just completed the final upgrade of Mark I. That is a system that is perfectly adapted to Jarvis. In addition, the flamethrower system was upgraded to a hand cannon. On the screen, the subtitles scrolled again. Anomaly Containment 093 Red Sea Object Description. Anomaly Containment 093 is mainly a red disk. It is carved from a composite stone similar to cinnabar. Its diameter is 7.62 centimeters. When held by a living being, the color tone of anomalous containment 093 will change. These colors are still under research. Currently believed to be related to the owner's regret. Tony looked at the information on the screen and was stunned. Disk. Then he looked at the disk in his hand and screamed in surprise. Ah! With a clang, the disk fell to the ground. No way, I can't be so unlucky, right? This should just be an ordinary record, right? Tony panicked. He was afraid of encountering something as terrifying as Wanyu Angel again. Subtitles continue to update. If no one is holding it, Anomalous Containment 093 will search for the nearest mirror. If there is an obstacle between 093 and the mirror, it will use the impact force to break through the obstacle and maintain speed until it touches the mirror. Despite the extremely high collision speed, the mirror and the Anomaly Containment 093 will not be damaged. When Tony saw the subtitles, his heart skipped a beat. If this record on the ground can really find a mirror, then it must be an anomalous containment object. Tony suddenly had a bold idea. How do you know if it is a containment object if you don't try? He picked up the record. Walked to the toilet. Opened the door. A toilet of over 100 square meters comes into view. Tony walked over to the sink. Above is a mirror. Tony looked at the purple record in his hands. If it's really an anomalous containment object, then if I let go, it will. Tony swallowed. He took a deep breath and threw the disc to the ground. In an instant, the disc stood up. Under Tony's shocked gaze, the disc rolled towards the mirror. The hand-washing station hinders it. It accelerated directly and smashed the sink. At an extremely high speed, it stuck to the mirror. Tony was immediately shocked. He immediately ran out of the toilet. Otherwise, something might run out of the mirror. After a while, nothing happened. Tony swallowed and walked into the bathroom again. He looked at the disc. Still clinging to the mirror. It seems, nothing happened. Tony thought to himself, is it possible that it just sticks to the mirror? Other than that, it has no effect. The tickle monster that appeared yesterday. Tony felt lucky. Not all containment objects are dangerous. Maybe this is safe. Think of this. Tony held out a shaking hand. Reached towards the mirror. To his surprise, his hand went straight through the mirror. It's like there is another world inside. Tony immediately retracted his hand. Greatly shocked. Subtitles continue to update. After testing, it was found that when holding abnormal containment item 093, one can enter the mirror world. 093 has different colors, and the world the tester enters will also be different. This is interesting. In the mirror world, that is to say, 093 is a key, right? Will this containment be safe? Like 999? It depends on whether the world in the mirror is dangerous or not. I have a bad feeling about this. It doesn't matter what the world in the mirror looks like. It can't affect our world anyway. How can it not matter? What if there are bad things in those worlds? Yeah, if a monster comes to our world, it will be the end. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick frowned. The mirror world can be entered through a disc. We need to quickly contain this disc. What if someone goes in and brings something unclean back? Yes, we need to contain it quickly. I think SHIELD can also help a lot. Qin Yu rarely agreed with Nick. Seeing Qin Yu's reaction, Natasha Romanoff realized it immediately. This 093 must be no simple matter. Camartage. The key to other worlds, she summed it up succinctly. Suddenly, she had a bad feeling. Unlike most people, the Ancient One does not yearn for another world or another universe. Because it's usually dangerous there. Unknown places are not always beautiful. Like, dark space and Dormammu. Or, a universe filled with the Walking Dead. Or maybe, that cancerous universe. Hopefully, no one will ever mistakenly end up in a place like that. On top of a tall building. Loki and Thor sat there resting. Loki looked at the words on the screen and said, Thor, in that mirror world, there may be the mount you are looking for. That makes sense. Thor stood up and swung his hammer. Loki, let's go and watch the footage when it starts playing. His injuries, with the help of Asgard's magic oil, have almost healed. Loki was silent for a moment, or, go by yourself. Hulk left a deep shadow on him. Even 999 is difficult to cure. The images began to play on the light curtain. Tony Stark suddenly appeared. I saw him wearing his armor with the help of Jarvis. I'm not going in there unarmed, Tony muttered to himself. Suddenly, people were shocked. No way? Tony Stark again? How did this unlucky guy encounter an anomalous containment object again? Holy shit, ha 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 ha, there can't be such an unlucky person, right? Most people may not encounter a containment object in their lifetime, but he encountered one twice in less than a week. What is he planning to do? Does he want to wear this thing and enter the mirror world? FK, is he crazy? He doesn't run away, but still wants to go in? I really don't understand the world of rich people. S.H.I.E.L.D. FK, Tony Stark, you're a lunatic. Nick was horrified. He didn't expect that after being baptized by Wanyu Angel, Tony still wanted to explore the containment. All personnel, assemble, head to Stark Building immediately. Nick looked at Banner deeply. You come too, Dr. Banner. Banner nodded. Okay, I was just thinking of going to see it. Qin Yu naturally did not follow. He's going to stay here, just in case. After all, this Red Sea object. It is one of the most profound objects among the top 100. Its origin, what it contains, is a tragic yet beautiful tragedy. In the light curtain, Tony Stark was wearing Mark I armor. He had already stretched half of his body into the mirror world. The mirror is more spacious than I thought. Tony entered the mirror world. Saw the scene inside. He was stunned. What is this? Chapter 43. A city glowing purple. Those skyscrapers seem to come from the future. Extremely prosperous. But it's eerily quiet here. The whole city seemed to be dead. Stark, wearing Mark armor, walked on the street. He was alert, his hand cannon ready to fire at any moment. In fact, he didn't understand why he came in. Maybe curiosity overcame fear. Tony continued to move forward. This is a bustling neighborhood similar to New York. Everything here looks very advanced. Including, several cars parked on the street. The weird thing is, there is no sign of life at all. Sir, after testing, the air here is breathable. Why didn't you say so earlier, Jarvis? Tony immediately opened his mask. But then, a foul smell wafted over. It smells like feces mixed with corpse oil that has been simmered for a week. Tony was so disgusted that he almost vomited. He immediately closed the mask. Jarvis, you call that being able to breathe? I'm really sorry, sir. I don't have the ability to distinguish smells. Looks like I have to upgrade. Tony muttered as he walked towards a car on the side of the road. High-tech things always attract him. This car looks like it came from the future. But it was covered with dust. It had obviously been abandoned for a long time. Who would leave such a nice car lying there? Tony dusted off the window and looked inside. I saw that the car was full of strange brown objects. Tony tried to open the car door. But I used too much force and it came off directly. Oops. Sorry. Is this the mirror world? These buildings look very high-tech. That's true, but I always feel something strange. I think so too. It's a little eerily quiet in here. What happened here? Did the residents move away, or? Gah. The internal structure of the car is similar to that of cars on Earth, but not the same. Tony fiddled with it for a while and saw that it couldn't start. Just keep moving forward. When passing a residential building, Tony stretched his head and looked in the window. This was also filled with a strange brown solid. Tony was watching with fascination. What on earth are these? I want to take some back to do research. As he was talking to himself. Suddenly, a huge amount of figure passed by the window on the other side. Tony didn't see it at all. But, the people under the light curtain can see it clearly. What the hell, what was that? It scared me so much that my heart almost stopped. Am I seeing things? There is something there, grey and huge. This city is really not that simple. Is this a monster? Could it be that all the people were killed by him? Looking at the light curtain, Qin Yu sighed. That thing destroyed more than just this city. What's more, it's not just this world. Tony had no idea of the danger. Humming a little tune, he continued walking forward. Soon, we saw huge amounts of buildings. Very tall and luxurious. Just like the Defy Twin Towers and the Eye of London, they are landmarks of the entire city. Tony walked over immediately. I guess you can find something interesting in there. Tony walked up to the front door of the building. The door was locked with a magnetic lock and could not be opened with bare hands. Tony stepped back and opened his palms. Boom! The door was directly smashed. Tony entered a very luxurious hall. The scene here looks very messy. It was as if everyone left in a hurry. I don't know what the reason is. Tony glanced away. There is a strange-looking computer on the table. Tony walked over and tried to operate it. It displays the pious operating system and asks for a password. Tony lets Jarvis invade. But the moment Jarvis entered the computer immediately initiated a self-destruct sequence. Tony had no choice but to move on. Ahead are two large elevator doors. The door on the right is crooked in shape. The elevator inside is also missing. This seems to be destroyed by something. Tony walked to the other elevator door and it opened automatically. He walked in. At the moment, S.H.I.E.L.D. had already arrived at Stark Building. Also coming with them were Colonel Rhodes and some soldiers. Rhodes, Tony, this idiot, actually went in. Qin Yu activated S.H.I.E.L.D.'s breaching system, temporarily paralyzing the defenses of Stark Tower. During this period, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s technology could still compete with Tony's. People successfully entered the building. Soon, the mirror leading to the other world was found. Rhodes took a deep breath and entered first. He didn't want Tony to die in there. The rest of the people also walked in one after another. Nick Fury pulled out his pistol and prayed silently, Tony, you damn guy, please don't get into trouble. The elevator Tony was riding in finally stopped at the 114th floor after a long time. The elevator doors opened and Tony stepped out. He came to a large, lounge-like area. All the tables and chairs here are covered with dust. Huge amounts of windows had been shattered. The sunlight with a slight purple tint shines in. What do these purples mean? Tony walked over to the window. Start overlooking the scenery below. The building where Tony is located is very tall and he can overlook far away. The city below looked grey and dilapidated. In some places, the brown substance stood like towering trees, covering the buildings. It looks like there is a kind of weird beauty. It seems that this is indeed a dead city. Tony said to himself, what on earth could have caused this? Tony continued to look into the distance. When he saw the ring road, his eyes suddenly froze. I saw a very huge amounts of humanoid creature crawling on it. Tony took a few steps back. The horror of suddenly seeing a living creature, and a monster at that, is so deep in my bones. Tony's scalp tingled and his heart was pounding. He took a deep breath. At least, the monster didn't notice him. He used the telescope function to observe the creature carefully. It was huge, covered in rotten grayish-white skin. There are no facial features on its face. There is no lower body either. Broken internal organs, such as intestines, dragged behind its tail, leaving behind a trail of brown liquid. Its two arms, or maybe its two legs. There is no fixed length. It keeps changing as it moves forward. Drag its body forward. Chapter 44. Tony forced himself to calm down. Now, it's time to return. Apparently, there was only that one monster in the entire city. And it moves slowly. If you encounter it along the way. With the mobility of the Mark I, it should not be caught up. Thinking of this, Tony immediately returned to the elevator. On the way down the elevator, Tony suddenly saw the button on the 74th floor was activated. This made him feel strange. This was definitely not the button he pressed. But anyway, out of curiosity, Tony decided to go to that floor and take a look. Anyway, you can go back anytime you want. Soon, the elevator reached the 74th floor. The elevator door opens. What comes into view is an office. Judging from the facilities and decoration, it seems to belong to a doctor. Tony continued walking inside. He found a form on the reception desk. Tony picked it up and looked at it. He found that the date on it ended in 1953. 1953. Tony pondered. Does this mean that the city fell that year? The computer on the desk seemed to be turned on. Tony examined it. Still a devout operating system. The folders inside are all about dating. In addition, there is a notepad on the table. Tony opened it. From Dr. Borisic's desk, the Blessed Purifier. This office belongs to Dr. Borisic's? And what does purifier mean? Tony put the notebook in the storage space and continued walking forward. In front of us is a big door. It has Borisic's name on it. There is a big cross symbol on the door. Tony stepped forward. Jarvis quickly hacked into the gate's systems. After hearing a ding sound, Tony pressed the cross. Then, the door opened. A long and narrow white corridor appeared. Tony took a deep breath. Inside, there might very well be the truth of this world. At this point, there is no reason to back down. Tony walked in. Fortunately, the corridor was wide enough for Mark the First to move freely. At the end of the corridor, there is a code door. Tony had Jarvis crack the code again. The door opened and Tony walked in. The scene inside shocked Tony. It's very huge here. In the center, several huge amounts of capsule-shaped transparent containers stand. There are 6 in total, 2 of which have been broken. Brown liquid flowed from the broken container onto the floor. It was as if something had broken through the container. The remaining 4 containers. 2 of them had nothing in them. In the other 2, there was a naked human being soaking in each of them. A man and a woman, the woman is very young and the man is middle-aged. They wore breathing masks. Tested by Jarvis. They had no vital signs. The case was taped to the bottom of the container. Tony looked closer. It says on it. Citizen JZ's mind was defiled, causing her to have S*X with her neighbor 5 times while her husband was away from home. The patient was obedient to our management. She was willing to be saved by God in our hands. JZ is managed by high-level priest UWA. The patient undergoes a 3-day cycle of purification with God's tears to redeem her tainted soul. God's tears, purification? God's tears, do you mean the liquid in the jar? Tony looked at the other man's case. Citizen AF attacked a high-level priest. He angrily stated that the tears of God turned his daughter insane, and attributed the dirty and obscene behavior his daughter had done to the priest and his blessing. He hurled profound insults at the priest and the tears of God. AF was sentenced to soak in God's tears for a week to cleanse his dirty soul. Under the light curtain, people began a heated discussion. That brown liquid seems to be exactly the same as the one on that monster. I saw it too. Does this mean that the one that escaped from the jar was the monster? 2 jars were breached, which means there is more than one monster. There are 2 people here who are soaked in a jar and are intact. Does this mean that those monsters are transformed from humans? FK, I got goosebumps. Can humans be turned into such horrible things? Camartage. Ancient One carefully observed the case descriptions of the 2 people. The contents of this jar should be God's tears. And the tears of God turned them into monsters. Thinking of this, Ancient One frowned slightly. Everyone in the city has disappeared. Could it be that they have all turned into? And Tony Stark thought there was only one monster there. He had no idea that he might be surrounded by tens of thousands of monsters. On top of Stark Tower. The portal is open. Loki and Thor came out. Loki saw that there was only one monster there, and it was moving so slowly. I suddenly felt confident and rushed over immediately. Thor swung his hammer. That thing is not suitable as my mount. But it is also a good trophy. They soon entered the mirror world. Tony Stark was full of curiosity. What exactly are God's tears? God's tears? And what is God? An abstract concept or a real entity? Why did the rulers create those monsters? How did they get out of control? Tony searched the room. He firmly believed that he would find the truth. Finally, at Jarvis's prompt, Tony pressed on the smooth wall. With a sizzling sound, a box popped out slowly. Inside was a stack of documents and a bottle of sticky light blue liquid. Tony picked up the file. I saw it was written on it. Black sword in the unclean land. Tony's Adam's apple moved. Could it be that the truth behind all this is recorded here? Tony eagerly opened it. Chapter 45. The font inside reveals an ancient atmosphere. The content is very long, here's the brief summary. December 25, 1875. Mr. Wallace obtained an unusual antique, a small red disc. If you don't touch it, it will start rolling at a very high speed and even break through the wall. Until it touches the mirror. What's even more amazing is that no matter how fast it is, a person can always catch it effortlessly. Wallace's maid accidentally touched it while cleaning the room. A man emerged from the mirror, and the maid was frightened and called the police. No one believes that the man is from another world, but I am different. I found that man learned a lot about him. Finally, I entered the mirror world. It is a world with a strong religious color. The highest leader is the Pope. And all people believe in one God, him, yes, it is him. Not God, not Jesus, but him. Any religion other than this is a heresy. Once discovered, it must be immersed in the tears of God and purified. If we allow them to spread heresy, the unclean will appear and destroy everyone. He brought medicine and technology to the world, but wars broke out among nations to compete for his favor. When he saw his people killing each other, he wept bitterly. The tears he shed are the tears of God. Those who tasted his tears were cleansed of their sins. Those whose sins were too deep became unclean, a kind of terrible monster. I want to go to the dry land to see it myself. The place is full of unclean people. I entered the depleted land and smelled the stench of decay. I encountered the unclean, and my weapons were useless. The gods' army saved me, but one of them was absorbed by the unclean, and the unclean escaped. I was brought to the divine court for trial for trespassing into the depleted land. I used my intelligence and the stupidity of those people to get by and got a good job. I am also slowly approaching the truth. Those unclean ones are not the incarnation of the devil at all, but seriously deformed humans. Originally the tears of God are the catalyst. When people come into contact with God's tears, they will mutate and become unclean. The unclean will devour all life and assimilate. It will grow bigger and bigger, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. The church must know this truth. But the unclean ones are their weapons to maintain their rule, and they use them to conquer one country after another. In order to exploit the unclean, the church allowed this dangerous thing to exist. How long will it take before they get out of control and destroy the entire world, or even other worlds? I don't know, but I won't let it. Corroded writing. I have developed Blackwood's tears, which can, corroded writing. By this point, the rest was destroyed. So, these monsters are called unclean ones, and they really are transformed from humans. The more creatures the unclean one absorbs, the bigger it becomes. The one we just saw may have absorbed hundreds of people. Blackwood's documents say that the unclean ones can't even be killed by rocket launchers and machine guns. It's no wonder that such a terrifying thing can destroy a world. It seems that those popes paid the price. The unclean finally lost control. This Blackwood is so brave, he dared to face those unclean ones in person. I was almost scared to death watching him through the screen. So, what exactly is this he? Tears can create monsters, so he must be very powerful, right? Ah, why is the back damaged? I really want to know what happened in the end. Camartage. A human being, determined to save other worlds, facing terrifying monsters, and not afraid of death. Ancient One sighed. If she were honest, even she would find it difficult to do so. In order to prolong its life, it even absorbs energy from the dark space. Ancient One felt inferior to him. In addition, Ancient One analyzed something very important from Blackwood's diary. There is probably more than one Red Sea object. After reading the notebook, Stark's blood boiled. Blackwood's courage is truly admirable. Tony decided to do something. He must not allow the unclean to invade the Earth. Let me inherit your will, Dr. Blackwood. Tony picked up the bottle of sticky liquid. I guess this is Blackwood's tears. Tony unlocked the weapon on the armor. He wanted to integrate Blackwood's tears with the cannonballs. In this way, the unclean ones can be killed. Just at this moment, Tony suddenly felt that the building was shaking. And it's getting stronger and stronger. It was as if something was climbing up rapidly. In a few seconds. With a bang. A monster with a huge body and rotten grayish-white skin break through the wall and rush towards Tony. Tony closed his mask immediately. Curse. A shell was fired. Boom. A large hole was blown out of the unclean one's head. But, it healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. Because Tony's shells did not integrate Blackwood's tears. So no further harm can be caused. Tony knew he couldn't stop. He stepped back quickly. At the same time, the palm cannon was fired. The unclean are constantly injured by the blast, but recover quickly. And getting closer and closer to Tony. Tony simply blew down the wall behind him. Purple sunlight shines in. Tony jumped down immediately. But the unclean ones also caught up. His arms stretched out quickly. Scratch Tony's chest. Snap. Zi. Tony's energy system was damaged and failed instantly. He couldn't fly and fell rapidly towards the ground. Jarvis, activate the backup hidden energy. Yes, sir. 2 tubes behind Tony spewed out flames. Greatly alleviated the impact of landing. Boom. Tony fell to the ground. He didn't stop. Instead, he ran while trying to integrate the tiers of blackwood into his own weapon. Sir, your energy is decreasing. When it reaches 0, shrapnel will enter your heart. Tony forced a smile, his eyes determined. I can do it, Jarvis. I will kill this son of a BCH before the energy runs out. Integrate progress, 50% at the moment. On the tall building over there, the unclean one was rushing towards Tony at an extremely fast speed. Integration progress, 60%. The unclean ones are growing bigger and bigger in Tony's eyes. Rod, Nick, Natasha Romanoff and the agents are heading towards the tallest building. They were very careful along the way. Suddenly, they saw an unclean one in the distance. They immediately took cover. But I don't know why. The faceless unclean one, without any facial features, looked towards where they were hiding. Obviously they were discovered. Suddenly, the heads of the unclean ones are pointed toward the sky. Constant makes strange noises. Rhodes was shocked. Oh no! It's calling its own kind. Suddenly, the earth is shaking. Countless unclean people came from all directions. The unclean ones could tear Tony's armor apart in one go. Natasha Romanoff and others had no power to resist at all. Nick turned his head. He took a deep look at Banner. Dr. Banner, it's your turn. Chapter 46. Dozens of unclean people came from all directions. Banner took a deep breath. He didn't realize that Hulk had just calmed down not long ago. This time, he will be called out again. However, he understood when Nick Fury asked him to follow. What Nick Fury actually wants is the Hulk. Banner clenched his fists, exerting all his strength. Please, Hulk, come out. The unclean are getting closer. Those huge faces without facial features are like huge mouths of the abyss. It is determined to devour all living things. Banner was sweating anxiously, but Hulk showed no intention of coming out. At the moment, the agents and soldiers had opened fire. Dense streams of bullets penetrated the flesh of the unclean ones. Rotting skin and brown blood splattered everywhere. But their speed has not been slowed down at all. The soldiers and agents at the outermost perimeter were instantly knocked down by the unclean ones. Then the unclean one pressed down with its huge amounts of face. Those people were directly absorbed. The unclean one's body had grown visibly larger. One of the unclean already rushed to Hulk. He has raised his rotten hand. Natasha Romanoff shouted anxiously, "Get out of the way, Banner." But it's too late. The hand that could destroy hard alloy slapped down at Banner's mortal body. Boom! A puff of smoke. Natasha Romanoff's lip trembled. Nick also stared there in horror. Banner. Suddenly, a familiar roar resounded through the sky. The smoke cleared. Hulk tightly grasped the unclean one's hand and glared at it. Then he roared and pulled with all his might. The entire arm of the unclean one was pulled off in one go. A huge amount of brown liquid sprayed out from the broken arm. But, it was almost instant. The new arm grew out directly. Hulk immediately punched the unclean one in the face. There was a dull thud, and its face became sunken. Suddenly, another unclean one pounced. Hulk was knocked to the ground in an instant. Since Hulk has no anger buff now. Therefore, the combat effectiveness is much worse than that of 999 at that time. The two unclean ones began to tear Hulk apart with their bare hands. One of them grabbed Hulk's face. Half of his face was torn off along with the flesh. Half of Hulk's face was suddenly reduced to bones. It roared in pain. Another unclean one grabbed Hulk's arm and pulled hard. Directly ripped off Hulk's forearm. The blood instantly dyed the battlefield green. Hulk roared in pain, but he seemed helpless in the face of the powerful unclean one. At the moment, two unclean ones were vying to absorb Hulk. Absorbing an ordinary human would make the unclean one significantly larger. What's more, it's Hulk. The huge face of the unclean one is pressing towards Hulk. The other side. Tony looked at the only 25% of hidden energy left. Then he looked at the unclean ones that were approaching rapidly. He gritted his teeth and flames spewed out of the pipe behind him. Send him into the sky. The Unclean One missed and crashed into a building. The building collapsed instantly, crushing the Unclean underneath. Tony landed again. Sir, there is only 10% of energy left, and it is still decreasing. I know, Jarvis. My heart will not stop beating, and this Unclean One will die. Blackwood's tears integrate progress, 80%. The wreckage of the building shook violently. With a loud bang, a large amount of iron blocks flew into the sky. The Unclean rushed out. Integration progress, 87% energy, 8.5%. Tony could no longer use hidden energy. This means that he will not be able to dodge the next attack from the Unclean One. Tony fired a palm cannon. A dazzling beam of light shone into the face of the Unclean One. Suddenly a big hole appeared. The Unclean were slowed only slightly. It was less than 100 meters away from Tony. Energy, 5% integration progress, 92%. It seems that Tony can no longer complete the weapon integration. And his heart is about to stop beating. Suddenly, behind Tony, a big hole was instantly created in the building. Another Unclean One rushed towards him. Tony raised his palm cannon at them. But this seemed to be just his last struggle in despair. No, Tony. Just hold on for a few more seconds, and the weapon will be integrated. Ah, why is there another one? We are really doomed now. Tony, don't. The other side. The two Unclean Ones' large faces were already pressing down on Hulk. He felt as if every cell in his body was beginning to break. In desperation, Hulk burst out with amazing strength. His arms began to grow at an extremely fast speed. The muscles instantly expanded 3 times. He let out a terrifying roar. He grabbed the faces of the two Unclean Ones like kneading bread. He pulled hard. PSST. The heads of the two Unclean Ones were torn off in an instant. Hulk's roar was filled with anger. He faced hundreds of Unclean Ones without any fear. Like a god of war. At the moment, the two Unclean Ones' heads began to recover rapidly. Another dozen or so Unclean Ones began to pounce on Hulk at the same time. Hulk tore and smashed desperately. He was constantly injured, and his recovery ability gradually couldn't keep up. And the number of the Unclean Ones is simply too great. Hulk began to feel tired. His movements slowed down. This led to more violent attacks from the Unclean Ones. A full 50% of Hulk's flesh was torn off. He didn't stop fighting, but his anger seemed to have run out. There were less than 50 agents and soldiers left. Nick constantly pulled the trigger. Bullets fired desperately at the Unclean Ones. It was ejected immediately and the wound healed. Nick looked at Natasha Romanoff. Natasha Romanoff, it's my honor to work with you. Natasha Romanoff nodded. Me too, Chief. They are ready to die. Hulk fought desperately. An unclean person's hand pierced into his chest with a PSST. Then, in an instant, his heart was crushed. Hulk vomited a large amount of green blood. The fighting spirit in his eyes has not diminished in the slightest. The Unclean Ones grabbed Hulk's head. It seemed as if they were going to cut him into pieces and then devour him. At this desperate moment, the sky suddenly darkened. The sky was covered with dark clouds, followed by lightning and thunder. Chapter 47. Huge amounts of lightning struck from the sky. Countless unclean people were instantly electrocuted, leaving their bodies burnt on the outside and tender on the inside. Their operations were temporarily halted, but they have begun to recover from their injuries. The burned skin falls off and the rotten skin grows back. Hulk had time to catch his breath. He roared. The flesh and blood on his body was growing at an extremely fast rate. Looking at Hulk, Loki's eyes revealed fear. What kind of monster is this? Being smashed by Hulk that day left Loki with a deep psychological trauma. Thor immediately landed next to Hulk. The two stood back to back, facing the Unclean Ones. Hey, big guy. Thor twirled his hammer. I never thought we'd start working together. Hulk snorted. Next to it, just before the agents were about to be wiped out, a huge amount of purple light beam exploded instantly. A large number of unclean beings were severely injured and temporarily paralyzed. The survivors on the ground looked up at Loki. Loki frowned. What on earth am I doing, saving these monkeys? The Unclean Ones quickly recovered from their injuries and launched another fierce attack. Hulk, Loki, Thor, and the survivors, fighting and retreating. They gradually retreated towards the mirror. Nick shouted over the noise, "Where is Tony Stark?" Thor, Can you bring him back? Energy, 3% integration progress, 94% the weapon is about to be integrated. But the two unclean ones are already within reach. Tony could smell the corpse oil through his helmet. His heart was beating violently as its energy was almost exhausted. He was on the verge of death. Weapons can never be fully integrated. In this extremely desperate situation, the armor on Tony's arms and legs fell off instantly. Then, it was placed on the arms of the two unclean people at once. With a bang, the armor pinned the arms of the two unclean ones to the ground. They extended their arms madly and rushed straight towards Tony. But, I still couldn't reach it. The big faces of the unclean ones were less than a meter away from Tony. The strong stench overwhelmed Tony like a tsunami. He looked at the armor that held the unclean one's arm in place. This is a built-in function of the armor designed by Tony. No energy will be wasted. At the moment, the armor began to fall off as the unclean one struggled. Although they were only controlled for a few seconds. But that's enough. Integrate progress. 97%, 99%, 100%. Integrate completed. Jarvis's voice was extremely cold, but it ignited Stark's only hope. Stark carried the extremely heavy armor. Shoulder cannon activated. Huge amounts of shells were aimed at the two unclean ones and fired. Hiss. Boom. Shot into their heads. The tears of Blackwood exploded instantly inside. The smaller unclean ones died instantly without making any sound. Something exploded, but Tony didn't see it. Another large unclean one. The body seemed to be torn apart and constantly twisted. At the same time, an extremely miserable and strange cry was uttered. Tony was delighted, it hurts it. Then he fired another shell. Accurate hit. The black tears exploded again within its body. The unclean one screamed even more miserably. But he crawled towards Tony like crazy. Tony hurriedly dragged his heavy feet away from it. Fortunately, the unclean ones were greatly slowed down due to their injuries. Otherwise, Tony would never have been able to escape. Tony continued to fire shells at it as he retreated. The damage to the unclean is getting worse and worse. There are constantly protrusions in the shape of human heads on his body. There are hundreds of them. It's like the bread is full of maggots, constantly wriggling, making people's scalp tingle. It seemed as if there were hundreds of wronged souls screaming inside its body. Its screams became more and more like human voices. Tony constantly backed away. He had only 3 shells left. But seeing the unclean like this is enough. The unclean are dying. But, it still keeps moving towards Tony constantly, without any intention of retreating. Tony had been cornered into an alley. Only 1% of his energy was left. Can no longer use the palm cannon to blast away the wall behind you. In other words, he had nowhere to retreat. The remaining shells must be used to kill the unclean. Tony fired 2 rounds. The unclean one screamed. Its body had become as bloated as a big bag filled with water. Human heads constantly emerge from the skin. It's like countless humans trying desperately to escape. Brown blood vessels have spread all over its body. The breath of the unclean also became extremely weak. The last one will definitely kill it. Tony aimed at the unclean one's head. By now. Click. The shell launcher was activated, but nothing happened. Tony looked at the approaching unclean and his face turned pale. Launch again. Click. 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 Still the shells had not been fired. Damn it, it got stuck at such a critical moment. Tony covered his heart and sat down on the ground. He felt that his heart was gradually stopping. Energy remaining, 0%. Tony's vision started to blur. He looked at the huge amounts of unclean ones' featureless heads falling down upon him. Tony closed his eyes and prepared to face death. At least, I chose a heroic ending, right? The people under the light curtain looked at this scene and were filled with despair. In despair, hope emerged, but was ruthlessly extinguished. This is fate. Tony smiled. It seems that I have already stepped half a foot into heaven. But, I waited for a long time. He didn't even die. Tony opened his eyes in surprise. The unclean one was almost on top of Tony. But, it did not take any further action. It didn't consume Tony. Tony looked at it in confusion. Don't you want to kill me? The unclean one held out his rotten hand. Trembling, he pointed at the shell on Tony's shoulder. Then, he pointed at himself. At the same time, a sound similar to that of a human was emitted. Tony suddenly realized, "You want me to kill you?" Tony understood immediately. These unclean ones are made up of countless humans. They are filled with confusion and pain all the time. They destroy and kill. The reason for all this may be to seek death. Tony was filled with shock. He constantly adjusted the shoulder cannon. Finally, accompanied by a loud bang, the missile penetrated the unclean one's head. Instantly, the unclean one's body began to swell violently. It turned into a translucent, brown water ball. Then, there was an explosion with a bang. Hundreds of humans were sprayed out along with brown liquid. Tony was also covered in brown liquid. But he didn't care. At the moment, the ground was full of naked humans. Men, women, young and old. Either dead or dying. Tony held his heart and looked at them. He is now full of sadness and grief. These human beings are all victims of stupid religious dynasties. The Pope constantly deceives his own people for the sake of his own power. In order to gain power, they use lies to turn them into horrible monsters. They live in pain every moment, but they cannot die. If possible, Tony really wanted to copy Blake's tears in large quantities. To truly purify all impurities. But, he no longer had the chance. Tony lay on the ground. The darkness in his eyes gradually expanded. His hands gradually dropped. Under the light curtain, many people cried. "Tony, no, you can't just die like this. Tony, you are a hero and we will always remember you. Tony, you are not allowed to sleep, open your eyes." Suddenly, a gust of wind blew by. Thor descends from the sky. He left and came to Tony's side. He squatted down. "It's amazing. You killed 2 unclean ones by yourself." He picked up the hammer and pressed it against Tony's chest. Lightning flashes. Chapter 48. Thor's hammer gently touched Tony's chest. Sizzle. Electric current rushes in. Tony's whole body bounced up. He opened his eyes instantly. "Take a deep breath." The heart began to beat violently. "Sir, you have 25% energy remaining," Jarvis said. Tony touched his chest, the faintly glowing core. He looked at Thor in surprise. "Is this possible?" "Definitely." Thor smiled. "Although I am curious about how you killed the unclean, we must retreat now." Thor helped him up. "Can you stand the high-altitude flight?" "That's fine with me. If we need to retreat." Tony pulled out the purple disc. "We need this." "Good." Thor took the disc to prevent Tony from dropping it during the flight. He picked up Tony, swung the hammer, and flew into the air. Neither Tony nor Thor noticed that the disc had turned red when Thor touched it. And only the purple disc can open the door to the purple world. The other side. Loki and his several duplications were desperately shooting out magical rays. Everyone constantly retreated to the rear, but the unclean had already surrounded them. "Damn it, Thor!" Loki yelled, "If you don't come, I'll run away." Many of his duplications have been broken up by the unclean ones. "I am coming." Thor sent down a violent bolt of lightning. The unclean ones at the rear stopped instantly. Then, Thor slammed his hammer to the ground. "Blow them away in an instant." Although the unclean ones are powerful, they are very light. Hulk also rushed over, knocking over all the unclean in the retreat path. Thor immediately threw Tony into Nick's arms. "Then, hold the disc close to the mirror." But, there is no effect. Thor was startled. Trying again also had no effect. The unclean ones in the rear were pressing forward again. Once again, soldiers were devoured. Everyone is in danger. In a hurry, Natasha Romanoff suddenly thought of it. It was said on the screen. Different people will see different colors when holding the disc in their hands. It depends on the degree of their repentance. It is very likely that only the corresponding color can open the door to the corresponding world. Natasha Romanoff also had no idea what color she would be. But had to try it. She snatched the disc from Thor's hand. The disc immediately turned purple. Natasha Romanoff was immediately delighted and quickly stuck the disc on the mirror. Suddenly, ripples appeared on the mirror surface. "Everyone come in!" Thor shouted immediately. Everyone got through the mirror. Back to Earth. When the last agent comes out. Natasha Romanoff immediately pulled the disc off. "I saw the unclean ones on the other side crashing into the mirror." Natasha Romanoff swallowed. She watched the unclean ones trying to peel off the mirror and come to the earth. If they really come over, I'm afraid the earth will become like that city. Just at this moment, a huge amounts of helicopters landed on Stark Tower. Hundreds of people in yellow prison uniforms and several Foundation agents rushed over here. The agent captain snatched the disc from Natasha Romanoff's hand and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, can you lend it to me?" He handed the disc to one of the prisoners. The disc still appears purple. These prisoners looked excited and full of fanaticism. For humanity. For the earth. Led by a prisoner holding a purple disc. They rushed into the mirror. Natasha Romanoff noticed that they all had a big D printed on their bodies. The D-class personnel entered the mirror world. Those unclean ones were instantly attracted to them. He immediately gave up the mirror and chased after them. After they walked away, the agent captain immediately removed the disc from the mirror. "We'll take this." As a representative of the military, Rhodes did not say anything. After all, there were dozens of heavily armed Foundation agents standing there. And Rhodes has become a commander without troops. The agent captain kicked the expensive mirror into pieces with one kick. From then on, those unclean ones could no longer come to Earth. The crisis of Red Sea objects has come to an end for the time being. As for whether there are other objects from the Red Sea that have fallen to the Earth, nobody knows. Not long after, members of the Foundation left by plane one after another. FK, this is so shocking. I don't know what to say. This Red Sea object really hides so many secrets. I thought it was just an ordinary disc at first. At first I thought Tony was just a worthless playboy, but now I've really turned from a hater to a fan. This is probably the only time that superheroes from all walks of life have helped the Foundation, right? It was the Foundation that came to rescue them before. Indeed. The Red Sea objects or the unclean ones are so terrifying and powerful. Even the Foundation has to sacrifice some people to temporarily isolate them. I am really curious now, where did that he come from and what he is? I hope that Black's tears can be mass-produced, so that we don't have to worry about the unclean ones invading the Earth one day. Camartage. The Ancient One let out a long breath. She hadn't taken action yet because Dormammu was very close to the Earth. If he really came, it would be no different from the unclean ones invading the Earth. At least for now, the Ancient One has not figured out a way to completely destroy Dormammu. Perhaps she needed to talk to the Foundation's leaders about this in person. After all, Dormammu is a world-destroying containment object. Besides, Ancient One was also curious about who that he was. His tears can create such a powerful monster. So originally, would he be as powerful as Dormammu? College. Backyard. A man in red tights, looking very mean, was lying on the lawn. He carried two long swords on his back. "Ah, this unclean one is really curious," he said to himself. "If I put my pee in his, what would he suck out?" It's disappointing that the Foundation hasn't done similar experiments. After a while, Deadpool suddenly felt that someone was standing in front of him. He opened his eyes immediately. I saw that it was a tall and thin boy wearing a mask. Deadpool was stunned. When the hell did you appear here? He jumped up suddenly. He glanced Qin Yu up and down. Are you a student of this school? Or are you Professor X's illegitimate son? Then, the Foundation logo was seen on his clothes. Oh, you are from the Foundation? Are you their boss, or just a small fry? No matter who you are, I'm not interested. Deadpool lay down on the lawn. Don't disturb my nap. I'm an ordinary doctor of the Foundation, Wade. Qin Yu said in a processed voice, I now have a job. Not interested. The reward is. Not interested. Heal your face that looks like a pickle that was RD by a goblin. Wade sat up instantly. Oh, you are not that old, why are you so mean? There is no way my face can be cured. I gave up hope many years ago. I'm serious, Wade. The Foundation can do this. But, we need your help. Wade stroked his chin, thinking. Somewhere on Earth, there is a clean and tidy mirror in the dim and shabby room. A hunchbacked man. Holding a blue disc in his hand, he let out a creepy laugh. This stupid Foundation must not have thought that there is more than one Red Sea object. He. Get a sample of the unclean one and bring it to General Ross, and you will be richly rewarded. He was just about to stick the disc on the mirror. He felt that someone suddenly appeared behind him. He was startled, took out his pistol and turned around. Who is it? Qin Yu looked at him calmly. Give me what you have in your hand, and you will have a chance to become a D-class personnel, otherwise, you will be executed immediately. What D-level and C-level? Believe it or not, I can shoot you to death, the man roared, pointing the gun at Qin Yu's head. Qin Yu held out his hand. You have violated the Foundation's regulations prohibiting the possession of dangerous objects, and have threatened the lives of Foundation personnel. Now, I will terminate you. What are you pretending? Ugh! The man watched in horror. Qin Yu's hand penetrated his abdomen. He didn't even see Qin Yu's movements clearly. Then the man wailed in pain. He quickly transformed into a magma-like substance. Then, it is absorbed into Qin Yu's body. Qin Yu looked at his palm. Then, he walked to the mirror. Smash it with one palm. Then put away the Red Sea things. He sighed. There are countless Red Sea creatures on Earth, or in the universe. It would be impossible for him to accommodate all of them by himself. He needs a strong elite team, able to handle extremely difficult incidents like this for him. College. In the room of John the fireman. I don't know when a strangely shaped teddy bear appeared. This doll looks very similar to the heart-stitched bear, but it is definitely not it. Because, Stitch Bear is healing Tony Stark's heart. John didn't know where the little bear came from. But he kind of likes this stuff. So I kept it. When he found that the little bear could interact with him in a friendly way, he was surprised and excited. I must have met a kind inmate like 999. That night, John was sleeping soundly. The little bear stuffed animal quietly reached out its hand to his ear. Subtitles appeared on the screen. Anomaly Containment Inventory, 2nd place. Chapter 49. Anomaly Containment 1048 Teddy Bear Maker Object Class, Safe, crossed out, Object Class, Keter. What does this mean? Why is Safe crossed out? I thought there was another kind contained anomaly, but it turned out to be another Keter. Is it possible that this containment was mistakenly believed to be safe at first, but then he did something extraordinary? A teddy bear maker, doesn't sound that scary, unless, he makes teddy bears like the unclean ones. Stop talking about it, I get goosebumps all over my body when I mention the unclean ones. It really could be the case, otherwise why would it be Keter? Tony's beach house. Tony lay comfortably in the chair, admiring the beautiful sea view. Another teddy bear. I have a thing for teddy bears right now. Tony's heart was completely healed by the heart-stitching bear. So when the subtitles appeared, he was not afraid. Subtitles updated. Description: Anomaly Item 1048 is a teddy bear approximately 33 centimeters tall. Its composition materials are no different from those of other ordinary teddy bears. The object can move freely and communicate through gestures. The subject often shows her cuteness to people. Therefore, most people think she is kind. This description doesn't look like a Keter level 1, does it? Yet, how can something this cute be dangerous? Could it be that Keter doesn't mean dangerous? 7 months after it initially seemed safe. Abnormal behavior of Abnormal Containment 1048 was discovered. Through these actions, Drive, data expunged, believes this item has the ability to create a crude replica of itself. And, its cuteness is the false atmosphere it deliberately creates. Currently, there are 3 known creations of 1048. 1048A, 1048B, 1048C. These creations are in stark contrast to Anomalous Containment 1048. They have all shown extreme violence toward humans. It's true. It will create very dangerous copies. Oh my god, is this why it's Keter? This is too weird. A cute little bear turned into a killing machine. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick fell into deep thought. Exhibits extreme violence against humans. How powerful this 1048 is depends on how powerful his replicas are. Even if that's the case, he can't create a replica as long as it's locked in a cell. Why would it be Keter class? Suddenly, Nick thought of something. His eyes widened. Unless, those replicas have already appeared. Thinking of this, he suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. At the moment, Hill came over with his long legs. Chief, our informant has revealed that a very strange-looking teddy bear appeared in downtown New York. Nick was startled. Hill went on to say, it appears to be made of a human ear. On the screen, the picture began to play. New York's downtown. A little bear covered with dense ears is walking constantly. It looks like it is being controlled by something. Most people ran away when they saw such disgusting and dense things. Some people couldn't help but stare at it out of curiosity. After a while, Wade arrived here with a group of sea-level agents. Make way, make way. Wade and others squeezed into the crowd. They saw the little bear. Oh, come on. Wade pulled out the knife. I thought it was something dangerous. It turns out to be a little bear with ears. Wade gradually approached it. It looks like a human ear. Did it steal someone's ear and make it into a doll? That person is really unlucky. However, fortunately the part that was stolen was not otherwise, this light curtain would have been sealed. Deadpool and C-class agents constantly approach 1048, attempting to contain it. Hey, little guy. Wade approached the little bear with a coquettish step, just follow Uncle Wade. Otherwise, I will send you to Mike Tyson's house and let him eat you. Suddenly, when Wade was 10 meters away from the bear, it suddenly let out a high-pitched scream. Immediately, Wade and all the agents covered their ears. Severe pain filled their eyes and ears. Then, everyone screamed in pain. A large number of ears began to grow from their bodies. Chapter 50. Thousands of ears grew on every inch of their skin. Extremely dense. The people watching were suddenly terrified to the extreme. That extremely disgusting appearance, that extremely painful scream. Let everyone present feel the same. They fled screaming. FK, this is so scary. These must be human ears, there are thousands of them on each person's body. Are these ears rooted directly into their skin? Is this teddy bear so scary? I have a teddy bear at home too, I can feel it staring at me right now. Wow, this is even more disgusting than the unclean. Those sea-level agents with ears all over their bodies soon stopped screaming. They covered their throats with their hands covered with ears and fell to the ground in pain. They couldn't make a sound. This is because the ears are not only visible on the outside. Every one of their entrails. The large intestine, stomach, throat, and trachea are all covered with ears. Their airways have been completely blocked by their ears. Because the ears are rooted inside their bodies. So they had no recourse. All they can do is wait for death to come in painful suffocation. Deadpool also has ears all over his body, both inside and outside. His red tights were stretched to their limit. Besides, he couldn't breathe now. I couldn't help but kneel on one knee. Although he possesses a self-healing ability that is even more perverted than Wolverine's, it is impossible for him to be suffocated to death. But this is not a solution. We can't just leave this cute little bear alone. Let every New Yorker become an ear warrior. Hey, who is this guy? Wearing a red tights? Is he a superhero? Look, this man in red has the Foundation's logo on him. He must be from the Foundation. Even if they are from the Foundation, there is no way. I can't think of any possibility that he could survive. No. Don't you know him? Deadpool. Mutant from the X-Men. He has a super self-healing ability. I'm sorry, I really don't know him. I only know Wolverine. What's the use of self-healing ability? It looks like they can't breathe. Self-healing ability can't help them get oxygen. S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick sees Deadpool. He frowned immediately. Wade. Isn't he Professor X's man? Why did he join the Foundation? A person with such a weird personality, how did he join the Foundation just like that? The boss of this Foundation is even scarier than the inmates. Nick thought to himself. He subconsciously glanced at Qin Yu. I really don't know how this doctor escaped from that devil in the first place. Natasha Romanoff stared at the screen. She couldn't help but shrink back. This scene was extremely frightening even for the battle-hardened agent. Why can't they breathe? Natasha Romanoff's voice was weak, as if her breathing was also affected. Because their bodies are full of ears. Their respiratory tracts are blocked. Qin Yu said calmly. It seemed like this was just a trivial matter. A chill suddenly spread from Natasha Romanoff's head to her feet. She couldn't help but wonder. Wade, can he survive? Wade on the light screen didn't seem to be worried about his situation at all. He raised the knife to himself. He looked at the white agent struggling in pain on the ground. In his extremely weak voice he told a hell of a joke. It's your turn to not be able to breathe, hey. Then, people under the light curtain were shocked. PSST. Wade plunged the knife into his throat. Then, He pressed the knife down desperately. Crunch. Puff. Click. From the top of your throat to the bottom of your belly. Wade gave himself a thorough autopsy. Then he opened up his throat, chest, and abdomen. Just like performing surgery in a hospital, the doctor uses a frame to hold open the patient's chest. Wade's opened body was full of ears. They were covered in blood and constantly squirming. It looks like a monster from the world of Thulhu. Many people under the light curtain collapsed on the spot. Many people fainted. Even the Ancient One quietly covered his mouth. This scene is much more terrifying than most dark creatures. Wade didn't stop. He dropped the knife and held out his hand. Into his throat. He grabbed the upper ear. With a snap, he tore them off. Sizzle. Sizzle. Puff. Wade tore off the ears from the trachea, stomach, and intestines one by one. Throw it to the ground. It piled up into a small hill. Then he closed the wound manually. All of Wade's wounds began to heal instantly. Soon, he was back to normal. He took a deep breath of fresh air. Ah, it feels so good. This is Deadpool's abnormally powerful self-healing ability. In the story of the zombie universe, Wade's body was injected with the antidote to the zombie virus. He let zombies all over the universe eat him. This method cured them all. And Wade is still able to self-heal as before. FK, this self-healing ability is too abnormal, right? Such a strong superhero can only work for the Foundation. I'm not surprised at how powerful the Foundation is. They contain so many dangerous things, how can they not be powerful? This Deadpool is a bit perverted. Even if I have the self-healing ability, I can't think of this trick. It hurts so much just looking at it. Why does he look like he's enjoying it? General Ross looked at Deadpool's perverted self-healing ability. It's jealousy and hatred. Why is any employee of that damn Foundation so powerful? And I can't even study the body tissues of the containment. Damn Foundation. I originally obtained several Red Sea items, but they were all taken back by the Foundation. And he executed my men. Damn it. Ross became angrier the more he thought about it. The next containment object, no matter what it is, no matter how powerful it is, I must get its body tissue. Wade hummed a dirty little tune and looked at the sea-level agents struggling on the ground. He sighed. He knew that these people were beyond help. If they were disemboweled, they would not be able to survive. All Wade can do is to stop others from being tortured by the bare-eared man. He raised the knife and rushed quickly to the little bear. Before it screamed again. Cut it off. Then, Wade slashed wildly. Cut it into strips. Then he took out the gasoline bottle. Pour the oil on the pile of ear filaments. This reminds me of a delicacy from Dragon Country that I once had. Cold-boiled pig ears. The dragon people under the light curtain instantly felt nauseous. Wade lit the fire. Suddenly, 1048A turned into a pile of ash. Wade stood up and said, "Next, we need to contain the damn bear." At the moment, Wade's intercom rang. "Wade, 1048-2 has appeared, go and contain it immediately." "Ah, I see. I see." Wade looked at the light curtain. "I saw a teddy bear that looked very similar to 1048 wandering on the street. A baby arm stretched out from the seam on his stomach." If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.